Hey, I'm Mike Squires, and this is the Couch Riffs Podcast, number 111, with my guest, Kyle Shutt. Why am I talking like this? I don't know, because in the morning, my voice is a little deeper, before it's really been put through the paces of talking a lot throughout the day and getting all tight. Welcome to the podcast. What the hell am I doing? Is the question, probably everyone asks all the time. Anyway, my guest on this episode is Kyle Shutt of the Sword. What a dude. We we have a very exciting video coming up with some other great folks, fun folks, great players. And we had a great conversation here. And I hope you enjoy it, The amazing thing about doing this podcast is all just like reassuring and reaffirming that, people are okay. People are good. And there's a lot of stuff coming at you all the time telling you that people are no good. And say, there's a lot keeping us away from connecting with people other than words on a screen. And having conversations with people is important. I encourage you to do it as much as you can. And don't just talk about the stuff that you see on a screen. Talk about everything else. Everything else and anything but. Okay? Do you get my drift? It's easy. And it's a lot more enjoyable. I encourage you. I'm sure Kyle agrees with me. Now listen, the Couch Riffs Podcast has been growing and doing really well, and I so much appreciate it. So I want to say thank you guys for listening. Thank you for sharing episodes. Thank you for following Couch Riffs on all the various platforms, YouTube. Go follow the YouTube, will you please? I got a bunch of videos coming, and my subscriptions over there are not super strong, but I'm like 30 away from a milestone with certain algorithms that happen at YouTube, and just that little push over the hump would help a lot. So I'd appreciate it. Thank you guys. It doesn't cost anything at all. You just follow. And you can turn your notifications off. It's not gonna do anything. So there are a bunch of folks who support the podcast with a monthly pledge. You can do that at anchor.fm/couch-riffs, or on the Instagram, just hit the website. It'll take you to the support link. Go to Couch Riffs on the anchor.fm website. Just search for it. For as little as 99 cents a month, you could be a pledge supporter and help make this podcast happen. And it's very much appreciated. So listen, I want to thank Ryan Waters, Hayden Smith. Thank you, Ryan Hooper, Matt Gabbs, Justin Jones. Go check out his guitars. They're so cool. Thank you, Doug Starkovic. Thank you, Deja Colantuono. Thank you, Rochelle Parker. Thank you, Adam Pranica. Thank you, Dan Hurst. Thank you, James Pope. S.J. Somerset Sullivan. The mystery has been solved. Thank you, Mike Lacerda and Jamie McParland, my partner over there at Golden Shower of Hits. Go check out that podcast. We review albums that you choose. Thank you, Dan Leary. Thank you, Kathy Giordano. Thank you, Rebecca Pellman. Thank you, Danny Bland. Thank you, Soto Rebellos. Thank you, Ryan Crace. Thank you, Paul Hutzler. Thank you, Justice Gash. Thank you, Steve Hall. Thank you, Teresa Morgan. Thank you, Rolla Amplifiers. I swear to God, this Bob Balch video is going to come out, and it's going to make a lot of people happy. If we can ever get it finished. Thank you, Perry Morgan. And thank you to River City Guitars. River City Guitars is a great little guitar shop over in Spokane, Washington. I know you've heard me talk about it here a lot, but they're the best. My guy, Bobby, runs his business like like he operates his business like he operates a family. And that is with a lot of love and caring and taking care of people. And he's the best. Like I wouldn't be here talking about anyone if they were turds. And he's the best. I love him. So I met him through doing business, and you'll really be able to suss a person out a lot when you're doing business with them, because there are a lot of opportunities where people can get you. And he's not a get you guy. He's a caresser. And so I love them. If you have any instruments you're looking to part with, get a hold of these guys. Every day is a buying day. You can get a hold of them at 509-818-7693 or drop them an email. Include a picture of what you're trying to sell. sales.rivercityguitars@gmail.com. These guys are lovely to deal with. Every week I go to their website and I pick a little something off the website, and use it for my pick of the week. I would encourage you to follow them on social media, though, because they cannot update their website fast enough. They have a lot of stuff coming in all the time. And if you see something over there on their social medias, give them a call, snatch it up before it hits the website. This week, I think, like last week, I think that I picked the 20th anniversary Les Paul Custom. This week, the 76 Les Paul Custom bicentennial. That's right, 1976. I remember the bicentennial. I was 5 years old, but I remember it distinctly. And it was a big deal around here. Although, 200 years, we were still the babies on the globe. But this guitar is beautiful. It's black, just like all the best guitars are. All my favorite guitars are black, mostly. And it's a Les Paul Custom. Arguably the coolest guitar that's ever been made. Although a standard's pretty hot. These things are, let's see, how much does this thing weigh? Doesn't say. Does it say? Oh yeah, baby. This thing is 10 pounds. It's, it is right there. It's a beast. These things are great. Go check this thing out. It's, how old is this? It's like 45 years old. So it doesn't look like a showroom guitar, and this is not a relic. This is earned wear, and it's black is beautiful, baby. This thing is $37.99. Make them an offer. No harm in that. rivercityguitars.com. We love them. So, more than ever, remember the golden rule right now, you guys. Everyone's really tense. This fucking year has been just relentless. And just remember that everyone is going through it. And even if you dislike someone, don't antagonize them for the sake of antagonizing them, because perhaps if you don't, you might have a breakthrough with them and bridge that gap. Like, exercise the golden rule, just be respectful to one another, treat each other with the respect that everyone deserves. If they deserve it. If they don't deserve it, fuck them. But that's not always for you to make a snap judgment on. Just don't be a dick. Treat people like you want to be treated, all right? I love you.
My dude.
What's up?
Can you hear me? Everything okay? Let me turn you around here. Here we go. I don't know how Zoom works. I'm sorry. I'm a millennial, I guess. I'm not a Zoomer. I don't know how it works, but I always resented that.
Okay,
I don't
Zoomer.
know. I've never felt like part of any particular generation. It's almost like your name or whatever. Like, you don't get to choose your name and you don't get to pick what generation you get labeled as.
Right. Well,
what's happening?
How are you? you're a
I'm
millennial then. You're less. You're
I'm
younger
30.
than.
I'm 37,
You're on the
and I
cusp.
graduated high school in 2000. So like, I don't know. I was into film and like animation and stuff. I wanted to go into animation before I committed to music full time. And like the year that I chose to go with the music path, I was like about to buy this huge like $10,000 animation camera I had like saved up for, and like 20,000 cells to do my first animated short and stuff. And then I was like, man, I think I'm just gonna play guitar and see where that goes. And then the very next year, everything went digital and everything. So I was like so glad I didn't waste that money. Although
What kind of animation were you? Were you into like stop motion, like that?
I
Kind
was
of shit?
very into stop motion. I loved Tim Burton and all of his early kind of more morbid hand drawn animated stuff. There was I don't know if you know what it is, but there was an animation festival called Spike and Mike's Sick and Twisted Animation Festival.
Absolutely.
that I came across in Austin. I didn't know that was a thing until I moved here and started going to the Alamo Draft House, which back then was just almost like a dive bar, like punk club. It wasn't like the
Right.
kind of corporate conglomerate chain thing that it is today. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I'm very happy for them. But it used to be like Alamo Draft House downtown used to be this like scummy place where you could buy buckets of beer for like $10, and like people were smoking joints in there and shit. Like people, it used to be like free movies after midnight on Tuesdays and Thursdays. They would play just like weird fucked up shit from the like the 50s and 60s. It was, I mean, it was a cool vibe.
So let me ask you this, because my wife is from Austin.
Really?
Yeah. But did you grow up in Austin? You didn't grow up in Austin, did you?
I not as a child. I moved here when I was 17 in 2000 because I wanted to play music for a living, and I didn't have enough money to move to LA or New York. And that's kind of, if you live in Texas, Austin was where you go.
Yeah.
But yes, I spent. I was on tour like forever, and I moved to Brooklyn for about a year in there somewhere, and then I tried to cut it out on the Oregon coast for a while. But I always end up coming back to Austin. It's the place that I've lived at the longest, so I guess you could say I'm from here. But I wasn't born and raised. People that are born and raised in Austin that are still here, we call them unicorns.
Yeah.
Because they're so rare. You're like, oh, no, nobody say anything. Don't make any sudden movements.
I think she was gone by the time you showed up there, but yeah, she went to school there, and yeah, it's crazy. Did you how far away from Austin did you grow up?
Not far. I was born in San Antonio, which is only about an hour and a half away if traffic's bad. And I grew up south of there, maybe like 20 minutes south of San Antonio. But then whenever I was 8 or 9 years old, my dad was in the oil field, as one is in Texas, in South Texas. And he got transferred out to the Midland, Odessa area, which people may remember from Friday Night Lights. I don't know. You might know. Do you remember Baby Jessica fell in the well?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that was me. I pushed her in. That was me. I'm just kidding. I'm just
whenever my dogs come up and bark at me, I'm always like, "What's that?" And then I make up a name. You know, like Timmy fell in the well.
No, but yeah, it kind of depends on how old you are if you remember Baby Jessica or not. But no, most people know it from Friday Night Lights, the high school football phenomenon. It wasn't just a TV show; it was a real thing. I was there. I saw it happen. It was 20,000 people at a high school football game on a Friday night. It's crazy.
I'm glad we're already like right on to this Texas thing, because I rarely go into these conversations knowing what the hell we're going to talk about. But,
yeah, I was excited. Thank you for having me, by the way. I didn't mean to just jump into the program if we're
no, it's
rolling.
It's
but thank you very much.
No, I'm recording from the very top. I love that. I love that we got straight into the Texas thing, because that was one thing that I knew I wanted to ask you about, and that is there's
what's
a real
wrong with Texas?
What's it like being a Texan? Now, do you think that being from Texas had a strong effect on your approach, or? I mean,
yes, absolutely. I mean, to put it in context, I've thought about it a lot, about what makes people from Texas play music differently than people from Louisiana, even, or Oklahoma, or not to mention California, New York, or whatever,
Right.
what makes Texas its own thing. And it's a combination of a lot of stuff. I feel like we have a huge blues influence, obviously Stevie Ray Vaughan from Austin and everything like that, and ZZ Top, a very rock and roll, but they use the blues in their rock, and Stevie Ray Vaughan used the rock in his blues, and a really great band from Austin. I'm just trying to think of all the great bands, any great band from here, all infused a lot of different styles and to make their own kind of sound, but it all kind of has like a swagger to it. It's not just it's not Texas. It's called Texas swing when you talk about country music. Bands like Asleep at the Wheel and stuff. And George Strait. It's a different kind of country music. It's not a waltz. It's just got a certain swing to it, a certain swagger. And I like to say, me personally, with my kind of guitar styling and influence and stuff, I grew up in West Texas, and it's a pretty small town, or it used to be anyway. And not that much live music would come through there. A lot of country acts and stuff, but on the reg, you could always count on ZZ Top and Pantera coming through. And if you think about my guitar playing in the sword, it really does fall like halfway in between ZZ Top and Pantera, somewhere in there. So yeah, Texas had a huge influence on me.
George Strait is, in Texas, people don't even say George Strait. They just say George.
George, yeah.
They just say George, and it's like saying fucking Elvis.
My God, dude. So like, I've never seen him play live. Everybody always kind of bags on his live show. Like, he just stands there and sings. He didn't put on a show like Garth Brooks or anything. But whatever. I don't really have any opinions on that necessarily. But
guess what? Mark Lanigan doesn't put on a big show either. But
yeah,
guess what?
I know. Yeah, seriously. Yeah, but yeah, you write a song like Unwound. But actually, that's not true. He didn't write that. He didn't write any of his songs, I don't think. I think he's one of the only artists to have like 50 #1 hits that never wrote a single one of them. He was like just pure Nashville machine. But anyway, he's a Texas hero.
What a great gig.
And I know. I was like, where do you sign up for that? And I've been looking for these sellout forms for years, but they're elusive. I don't know. I can't find them anywhere. But I digress. Where was I going? I don't know. George Strait. Yeah, he's I was going to see him. I heard that he was going to do like a retirement tour, and they built this new mega arena thing in North Austin called the Cedar Park Center. And the very first show at it was going to be George Strait. He was going to christen the venue. And I was like, hell yeah, I'll go see George. So I got online for tickets. So I click George Strait, search, and then it was like, it took me to this link. The tickets were like $650. I was like, whoa, no, I don't need the
slow down
VIP deal or whatever. I was just scrolling down. No, the general admission tickets were $650.
No.
And I was like, no, George, I'm sorry, man. Like, that's just ridiculous. And then like a couple of days later, I was like, fuck it. Like, what else am when else am I going to see him? I went on to get it, sold out.
Is that
they
right?
paid for that? They paid for that entire arena in one night. George Strait.
That's insane.
It really is. I fucked up with this heavy metal thing. We should have gone country. Should have gone country. It's too late now. Country's not even country anymore. It's all. Didn't Trent Reznor like just win a CMA award for like a sample of his? And it's like he's never had a. Nine Inch Nails never had like a #1, but I think he was on that Old Town Road song or something like that. Like there was some very like low in the mix sample from a Nine Inch Nails song, so he got songwriting credit for it, and that song like totally went #1. It was smashed records. I think he got a CMA award. I don't know if he has a Grammy, but he's got a CMA.
That's incredible. I don't know really anything about that song or the lore behind it, but
I heard it one time. It's not a bad song. I think it's just. I don't really listen to.
I don't think it's a good
mainstream
song necessarily. Stuff, it's fine. My favorite thing about it is that, like, isn't it a gay black dude?
I don't know of his sexuality, but it's a black guy and Billy Ray Cyrus. Who's the guy that sings it? Lil Nas X. I think that's his name.
That he's also gay, and so I think I heard all this stuff that. Country radio embraced it and like really ran it up the flagpole, and then they found out what was going on, and then they were like, whoa, and they had to like kind of come to grips with some shit like, okay, we got to pull up our britches now and be grown-ups and not be fucking weird bigots.
We can't just fuck in the barn anymore. We gotta like admit it that we do it. Oh, you know, like Jesus Christ. Did you ever hear a David Allan Coe album that he recorded with Pantera?
No.
Yeah, it's called Rebel Meets Rebel was the name of the band. And they had a song. It's basically, there's no Phil on it. It's just Pantera, but with David Allan Coe singing. So It's like if David Allan Coe sang for Pantera. It's crazy. It's got a song on there called Cowboys Do More Dope Than Rock and Rollers. It is hilarious. Dude, you got to check that out, man.
You know, did you see the song list? Did I send it to you? Or did we just jump right into our song?
No.
Name the song.
No, yeah, we jumped right in. Yeah.
So I have this song list that's like 300 songs deep, and there's a David Allan Coe song on there, Honey Don't. Do you know this one?
I don't. I'm sorry.
Oh, it's so good. There's like just ripping guitar work on it. And
nice.
But there's like some weird shit around him too. Like I mean, I've seen him.
Oh yeah, play. Dude. He's one of the main offenders. He's
got some
nuts.
Pretty questionable shit he's done and said,
to say the least.
And you know, I don't know. I don't want to.
Those old country legends. I mean, like, I'm not defending anyone. If racism and homophobia and all that shit, fuck off about all that.
Exactly.
Seriously, but you do have to remember, like, with those old country dudes and those old like punk rockers, people that were into punk in the 70s, you know, and into like outlaw country in the late 60s and 70s, they were fucking weird, and those were different times, and they had strange attitudes and points of view and shit. And like as they aged and watched this country go down the path that it's gone down, I mean, you know, I'm not defending anybody, but I'm just saying, remember where they came from.
Yeah, I know. I'm glad that I'm glad that there's been a lot of moving on, you know, and I'm glad that with social media, people are happy to out themselves as pieces of shit these days. So you can kind of like, you don't have to really guess where.
Like, what's his name?
You don't have to, when you're walking through
James
the high
Wood,
grass of life,
you
don't have to guess if you're going to step in it. They just like, they're shooting off fireworks and you can just navigate the minefield. You never get any shit on your shoes.
Isn't the guy from the Misfits, the new guy or whatever, the singer that replaced Glenn, he's like a super Trump supporter or something like that? I don't know. It's just like the weirdest people that you'd think would support something else or the total opposite. It's hilarious, like seeing everybody's points of view.
I saw that Ace Frehley just came out as a Trump supporter.
What did I ever do to you, man? Like, why we got to bring this shit up, dude? Oh my god.
It's okay. We'll move on.
Somebody told me that they were like, well, he wears a shirt like with a picture of himself on it and plays in front of a drum set with his name on it and like has a banner. It's like, you know, he's got a lot in common with the guy. It's really not that big a surprise.
Yeah, I guess so.
But you know what? I will say one thing. Again, I'm not defending anybody's shitty outlook on life. You know, you're the one that has to fucking live with that. Feel however you want to feel, whatever. You know, we're all just a bunch of weirdos on a rock. But you can't. I mean, you can if you want to, but I don't feel that art should be judged solely by the artist. I don't know. Our human brains are antennas, and they pick up signals and you know, your frontal lobe filters the things that you know see and hear every day, and then the art that comes out is just kind of a product of that and everything, and whatever else goes on in that brain and how it feels about other things. It's really not related. I don't think.
Look, man, every time Stranglehold comes on, I have to suspend everything that I've learned about the Nuge for the last 30 or 40 years and just enjoy the song because it's amazing.
Yeah.
Right?
Whenever Rick Perry, the Texas's piece of shit governor that we had for a while, he's actually had to tell Ted to like not endorse him anymore. He's like, hey Ted, can you just like stop showing up to these rallies and shit, man? Like,
that's pretty amazing.
Like you're bad whenever a Republican just tells you please stay at home. Like I don't need
You're too
fucking
wild
support.
for me. Wow.
Man, I
So
had something crazy happen to me today. I've been doing a lot of mail order stuff. I guess just through my Instagram page, I've been doing a lot of like painting, like custom, just like
yeah.
commissioning paintings of like myself and fun things. And I've been, just mailing them out myself. And I had some trepidation of putting my return address on the envelopes and stuff, but I did it. I just went ahead
sometimes
and
I do the
I
same
went ahead and
thing.
did it. And a fan, a very wonderful fan, sent me a care package today. They sent me this badass bottle of Old Rippy, Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey, and I'm gonna pop it right here and have a few sips. And I just wanted to say thank you, Whiskey Blood out there, if you're listening. It really, really made my day, and I sincerely appreciate that. I'm lucky, very lucky man.
That's amazing.
Cheers.
Cheers to you. What was I going to ask you? I was going to ask you earlier. You said that you were out on the Oregon coast for a minute. Where did you go?
I was a town called Yachats. If you spell it out, it looks like Yachats or
Yeah.
Yakets or something, but Yachats. Just a lovely little place. I would have stayed forever if I had millions of dollars,
Right.
but it's making a living out there is tough, and it's just not a lot of work to be done and everything. It's like it's gorgeous though. I mean, you truly feel like you're on the edge of the earth because I live in a 30-foot Airstream
Yeah.
travel trailer, and I just put the fam in it, and we went on a crazy cross country road trip last year, and went from Texas all through the Southwest and stuff. Went to San Diego and did the whole Highway 1 up the coast.
Oh, that's a
And
beautiful drive.
It really is. Doing it with a 30-foot trailer is
A little harrowing.
There's signs that say like trailers over 28 and a half feet not recommended.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, it just says not recommended.
Right.
It didn't say prohibited, So I was like, fuck it, we'll do it, And it was pretty hairy. We parked off the side of the highway at Big Sur, did the whole California hippie thing. It was a lot of fun. I wanted to keep going up the coast, but we got to Yachats in Oregon, and I don't know, something about it was just like we were parked 20 feet from the ocean. I opened my door, the water was just right there. I went down on the beach picking agate every day. It was great, but it definitely felt like maybe I showed up at the wrong time of my life. Maybe I'll end up there one day, but I feel like I still have a lot to do. It's just you're isolated out there. You're on the other side of the mountains that kind of separate you from Eugene and everything, and just getting to an airport is an ordeal. And I don't know, it just wasn't very conducive to how I make a living. So we decided to come back to Texas, and that's a whole other chain of events that I had to. I basically wanted to open a coffee shop or some sort of dive bar or something like that, and that was going to be kind of like what I invested a lot of time and energy in, so that it could become just some sort of stable income for me, so that it could fund my other projects that I wanted to do. Because in this post-streaming environment, very difficult to make a living. But I got a job managing a bar in Austin. And things were going okay. We really needed South by Southwest to sort of get us out of the slow season and ramp us up for the summer and everything. And then out of nowhere, the Sword decided to come out of our hiatus because Primus called us up and asked us to be a part of their Rust tribute tour. And then it was I don't know, a lot of things. It just seemed like I'm back, baby. This is my year.
Right.
I'm going to wreck it. And then the same thing happened to everybody. We're all in the same boat right now. I'm by no means trying to garner any sympathy, but it really sucked having to flush a 5-year plan down the toilet and to watch all of our tours get flushed down the toilet. And
right.
Yeah, life it's very different than we all thought it was going to be only a few months ago.
2020 is a butthole.
Man, I feel like it's been year after year of just bullshit, and I hate to just blame it on the president because God knows he sucks. But like, it's just everything, man. It's just like I feel like we've all collectively just gotten just beat down over the last few years. I mean, peaks and valleys, obviously, but I feel like this valley is just oof. It's like Lord of the Rings levels of epic.
It is the road to Mordor.
So dude. Everybody out there, you're not alone. We're all depressed and stressed out and everything, but it's I keep waking up every day and just trying to just make it over the wave of stress and anxiety and depression. And you don't have to do it alone. Everybody, seriously, out there, if you've been having a really tough time, reach out to me. You can find me on Instagram or Twitter or whatever. Just reach out if you've got nowhere to turn or anything. I unfortunately have to live on my phone to make a living, so I'm there. I'm not trying to pander or whatever, but seriously, things are crazy out there. I've had some close friends of mine pass away and things like that because of all this, and I'd hate to see that happen to anybody else because I know it seems dark right now, but there will be light.
What they say is the darkest hour is just before dawn.
Well, it's pretty dark, bro.
I know.
We got a dawn soon.
Yeah. I can hear the sunrise coming.
I know, right? Jesus. But are we allowed to talk about? Or I'm sorry, you probably have a
talk
whole
about
list
what
of, things to do. I just didn't know if we were going to talk about the song we were.
Oh no, we don't talk about the song
getting together for the people,
or yeah, I mean, we want to keep a lot of that element of surprise. I mean, I think it's fine for us to say we did something pretty cool, and it's I'll let you know it got shipped off to the singer, our unnamed singer,
to X
this evening.
Agent X.
X, yeah. And the agent in question,
not from the band X. That wasn't a clue. Yeah, that's it's not Xtina.
Yeah. And that person will be singing and perhaps also playing some other stringed instrument. And then it'll go off to Portland, Oregon for another person to perform their stringed instrument.
Y'all have no idea.
No, it's gonna fuck some. It's gonna twist some minds, man.
No, you brought up earlier the list of songs, and the reason you didn't send it to me, I think, is because we just decided off the bat. You showed me another song that you had done, and I really enjoyed the genre, and you said I've always wanted to do this next song. So they're like, stop talking about it. I just want to.
I'm hoping that the funny thing is some of these things, man, they just. I mean, you turned your part around really quick, and I appreciate it. I
was prepared. I didn't want to keep. I didn't want to keep you waiting. You were very, very sweet to ask me to do this, and I was very excited to do it. And honestly, it felt really good to. I wanted to do it really well, so I called up my good producer friend, and I booked a day in his studio, and got it. It felt so good to just go into a studio, crank an amp, and just do what I used to do for a living,
right.
Just for a day.
Yeah.
So it was my pleasure.
No, thank you. Because seriously, these things take months. Sometimes it's crazy.
Do the people know how much work goes into this?
I don't think so.
Recording something. Basically, let's just pretend. Let's say we were going to record "My Heart Will Go On,"
right,
by Celine Dion. First, that's a weird song, right? So you got to send it to somebody weird to get the drums down, and then takes forever.
The first thing you have to do is you have to get the original track, and you don't. Well, you know what? I don't want to give away all the magic, because it kind of like the real magic trick is to make it look like
you're right.
It comes like it's a live Zoom performance. That's fuck it. Let's just tell people how
it is, though. It is kind of. I mean, really, it's as live as it gets. The way we record it,
as close as you can come. Yeah. So, typically,
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to
No. It's great. This is great.
Yank the curtain back or whatever.
No, it's good. No, it's good. It's not like a fucking deep state. You open up Pro Tools or a Logic session, you drop the song in. We, at the urging of my producer and mixer guy, Don Gunn, who's a fucking amazing dude, we tempo map the whole song. So, which means, for people who don't know, a lot of songs today are built on a grid, right? So if you look at the timeline of a song, it looks like a ladder on its side, and every step is exactly the same distance apart. But in the olden days, that shit didn't work. Whether it could have been that there was a click, but the tape had some weird
some warble to it.
speed,
Yeah.
warble to it or whatever. And so
you know this, if you've ever made a record with like a synth trying to do like an arpeggiated thing, and you go back and try to overdub it, you find out that it's not exactly mathematically correct. It's a pain in the ass.
Nope. And yeah, you're in for a headache and a heartache trying to get
days.
that done. That could
days. Be. Yeah, not even hours, days.
Later days, Willie Mays. But yeah, so then so you have to create a click track that is perfectly in time with the original, so that whoever is playing along first puts their drums down, and they can also hear that tempo in the background. And occasionally I find stems, and I can send all the stems around along with the click, and that's helps a drummer a lot.
Totally.
I used to do
tempo mapping though is like, do you actually like tempo map the thing to where like, you know, because sometimes like the Sword in the past, like when we've tempo mapped an album, like your song isn't just 120 BPMs all the way through.
Right.
Some parts of it are 119, some parts of it are 122. And then so you have to like build this crazy grid ladder pattern like he's talking about with the rungs at different spaced out intervals to do that. Yeah, I didn't notice that with the one that we just did, but I didn't know,
because our drummer he's perfect. I think he dropped, well, yeah, that's why, because he's a fucking machine. That guy is an absolute beast until he's out from behind the kit, and that's when he turns into the sweetest man ever.
He's one of my favorite people on the planet. Yeah, he's great.
Behind the drums, though, look out. He's a fucking lion.
Or we're saying too much.
Probably. People already know at this point.
Too much.
So, yeah. And then, so each person has to learn the song, and then they record it in a single pass, which to non-musicians and musicians, maybe, that might not seem like such a big deal. But it doesn't happen all that often these days. People...
It's old school doing it that way.
Yeah, but the reason that I chose to do it this way and this way only, because everyone that participates, they film themselves as they're doing their actual take. No fucking miming. None of this bullshit where you like, okay, we're recording a cover and then we're making a low grade music video. This ain't a music video. This is the closest that we get to a live performance these days.
It's like a full jam of like all of us in the same room. So that's why we were saying like it really is as close as you can get to a live performance doing it this way.
And with collections of people that you will never see coming
ever,
and that you would never ever get under circumstances other than the current end times.
I think it's so cool. I had a great time doing it.
No, I'm so stoked that you jumped in. You were just like right off the bat, you were in. I loved it. I was like, yeah. I
love doing stuff like this, man. I hate stagnating, just sitting around doing nothing. Especially, I'm a big fan of just saying yes and figuring it out later. Right. If somebody makes you an offer for something or whatever, like, I mean, yeah, sure, there is a certain amount of kind of pouring it over if there's like a bunch of money on the table or something like that, or whatever, but if it's just a thing like this that we're just having fun, yeah, absolutely, man. I love doing stuff like this. I play guitar. Right. It's like what I do.
So other than this, I know you have a book project, which I want to talk about. The bar hasn't been open, I'm guessing.
No, I just flushed that down the toilet. Honestly, like it just the current state of things. It's not the kind of establishment that I would want to run. In the before times, in the long ago, when we used to go to bars and just have fun and drink all night and stuff. I felt very at home there. Yeah, exactly. And I feel very at home on a bar stool. And I enjoy talking to people, people from anywhere, all over the world. That's what I loved about touring. I would just find the cool dive bar and I would go there and hang out there and learn as much as I could from people. I love listening to people's stories, and I also love learning from people's mistakes so that I don't have to waste my time making those mistakes. But I also tended bar for a while, just in between tours. Eventually, when we were really going full time, and it was the only job I had for like 10 years. After a long time of that, I eventually sort of just would get bored at home. At first, it's cool because you're like, woohoo! Right. I got nothing to do, but eventually you kind of get tired of smoking weed and playing video games. I'm sorry, but it happens. So I just got a job at a brewery, tending bar. It was kind of like a speakeasy, where breweries in Texas weren't allowed to sell their product directly to customers, but we could sell you a wooden coin and you could trade that for a free beer. So that's what we did for a while. And it made me feel like a criminal. It was great. I loved it. I made some decent scratch on the side, and I was very good at it. Like I said, I really enjoy talking to people, complete strangers. Right. Like I've always said, like if you drop me anywhere in the world, like by the end of the day, I'll probably have a best friend and a couch to sleep on. So that I just kind of took that mentality into the bar scene, and then just worked at a couple of different breweries and stuff, and then decided that I really did want to open my own establishment. Got investors on board. I mean, dude, in February I had realtors scouting locations, and I had investors ready to cut checks. So really, in the scheme of things, I'm actually pretty lucky that this happened this way, because I didn't waste anybody else's money yet. So but that really sucked, having to let go of that. So back to the drawing board. Literally, I talked about earlier, I started painting silly pictures of myself on my
they're great
copies of my solo album. Thank you. I'd never painted before. I just once COVID happened and the bar that I was managing shut down for good, and then all my tours got canceled, I was not gonna lie, I was really depressed about it. And I had a stack of solo albums just sitting there, not selling themselves, and I had a Sharpie. And so I just thought it'd be funny if I colored the Kiss makeup on 4 copies of it, and I posted them online. I was like, anybody want these? $25, whatever, and they sold. So I took all the money from that to Jerry's Artorama here in Austin, Texas, great little art store, and just bought a bunch of real deal paint supplies and just kind of ramped up the action a little bit. And like I said, I never painted before, but I just dove in head first. Like I said, I don't say no. I like saying yes to stuff and taking on challenges and stuff. And I don't know. I just started telling people, what do you want? Like, just give me some money and I'll paint my stuff as whatever you want. RoboCop, Ming the Merciless, Count Chocula. I haven't done that yet. If you want it, let me know. Okay. But I did I did almost one a day for 5 months. I did 130 of them in 150 days. And I'm not going to stop, but I did, in the meantime, I was putting together a Kickstarter for a memoir that I would like to write. I know that a lot of people may say, you don't need a Kickstarter to write a book, you just write it. But this is going to be a different kind of book. I really want to take the rock and roll memoir genre and just turn it upside down and create a book that is unlike anything you've ever seen, to where it's almost like part self-help guide, part like biography, part just rules to live by, part just like it's like a photo history of just me traveling around the world for 25 years now at this point, of hopping in vans and playing in bands and stuff. And I literally came from nothing. I'm not some like trust fund kid, no offense if you are, but it's just, I don't know. I came from nothing and I ended up all the way on the world's biggest stage, Radio City Music Hall. And literally it's the world's biggest stage inside a building. So it's like, it's just kind of, I don't know. I feel like I've had a really interesting path in life that I chose by just not saying no. And I just want to try to convey that into a really awesome book that just doesn't read from A to Z. I wanted to treat it like, a really non-linear thing, to where at the end of it, you will have been taken on a crazy ride, because that's what the music industry is, man. It's a wild ride, baby. You know that. Just you never know what kind of trouble you're going to get into in the music industry. I like to play what I call the 24-hour game, where if you pick any one of the crazy things that's happened to you and then think to yourself, 24 hours ago, I had no idea I was going to be doing this. You know, and so I think that's why I keep going down this path, is just because you never know when you're going to end up backstage at a Joan Baez show and she's going to be serving you banana bread off a platter. You never know when Phil Anselmo is going to whip his dick out. You know, you never.
You don't
know,
want to see that. If it hits you, it might break your leg too. It's terrible. And if I ever have to see, if so you meet Phil, meet Phil, within 10 minutes, you're going to see it. It's really like, it's kind of traumatic.
Oh yeah.
Did he do the wine bottle thing?
I'm gonna. No, but I will say that man is probably as angry as he is because there's not enough blood in his body to get that thing hard. I'm serious. I think large.
It might be possible. Yeah. It's just.
Sorry, Phil.
I don't want to talk about his dong anymore. He's gotten enough airtime.
Sorry, point. but to say, you never know what's going to happen if you keep going down that road. And right. I want to put that in book form, and it's going to take some time. You know, I'm asking for a fair amount of money. It's not it's by no means anything I'm getting rich off of, because the kind of book that I'm going to print is, you know, it's going to obviously cost a certain amount of money. But also, right. I didn't want to. This might sound weird. I don't know, but I didn't want to waste a year of my life putting together this amazing thing that I'm super proud of and everything, and to be released to, you know, little reception or anything. I don't have a massive ego or anything like that, but tackling a book is a whole different deal than making an album, you know. And I just kind of wanted to flip it upside down, and I really love promo. I love like making people smile and laugh at silly jokes and like throwing myself under the bus and memes and things. And I like making just more of an experience out of it than just a book. So I thought I'd gauge the interest, and if we can get enough people on board and enough people want to hear this story, then I will knock it out of the park. But only if we get it funded. And it's like, you know, I also use, you know, these things. I just have a big list of ideas that I go to whenever it's time to fire off a new project, right. You know, and everything. I just kind of go like back to the idea board, and I kind of just take a look at it and see what I think would resonate with people the most right now and things like that. It's one of the more calculating sides of the entertainment industry, but it's true. You know, it's some ideas are better than others, you know, and you just kind of have to pick your pony sometimes and invest everything you've got in it.
Yeah. I mean, if you're making a record and you're like, wait a minute, I want to do a diarrhea solo right here, it'll be really great. Probably not great. Probably not going to resonate with people.
Probably not.
Maybe it's great when you're high and you're thinking like, that's funny, but it's probably skip that track is what people will do.
Guitar solos are so fun. Like when you're making an album, like because like sometimes people think about an album like song by song or whatever, but when you sit down and you're like, okay, and you really map out a record, and you're like, I've got 15 guitar solos on this album. Like, you know, you can't do the same trick in every one. You kind of can, like, it's easy to get into that trap, and then you realize you just did the same thing like 12 times in a row, and like you really have kind of forced to think about what kind of effects you're going to use on this one, or how you're going to construct it or go into it and out of it. It's the littlest things that really make the difference between an amazing guitar solo and a total waste of time.
Did you read a lot of guitar magazines when you were young?
I did. I read a lot of Guitar World and what's the other one that was big in the 90s?
Guitar for the Practicing Musician.
Ultimate Guitar?
Ultimate, yes. No, that's a website,
I think I read that
right?
one. There was two of them. I can't remember the other one because Guitar World just had a stranglehold on the market. But I got a lot out of Guitar World. I was reading it whenever Billy Corgan had an article in there, and I read that every month. And what's his name? Jay Younger from White Zombie had an article in there that I would read, and it was just great. I don't know. I loved their stories. They would follow bands on tour and stuff. And I was like 13, 14. That's all I wanted to do. So I was just glued to that stuff.
For whatever reason, I still subscribe to 3 guitar magazines. Wait a minute. No, stop.
It's because you're a lifer. 4. It's because you're a true believer, man.
3 digital and 1 print.
Which ones? Give him a shout out.
Guitar World, Guitarist. I canceled my other digital maybe. So 2 digital, and then Fretboard Journal. It's a very sophisticated. Do you know Fretboard Journal?
I don't. I know Guitar great. Aficionado. That one's nice.
It's not. I mean, that's all fine and good. It's not corny like that though.
Oh, okay.
It's like, makes me want to like make sure I don't have any dandruff on my shirt before I go outside when I read it. It's that kind of rag. It's good. Yeah. It's classy. They have some great podcasts you should check out too.
Okay.
Truth About Vintage Amps. You should listen to that. It's amazing.
Nice.
Yeah. But yeah, I learned a lot about guitar soloing from magazines because there was no internet when I was learning how to play, or when I first started playing.
Nope. You just those the tabs in the back. Yeah, that was all you had for me anyway. That's how it was like. I was so excited every month whenever they would put out like 4 new tabs, and there was a song that I really liked in there. It was awesome.
Yeah. But also sometimes, in interviews, people would talk about their approach. There was always like, so tell me about your approach on this record. And I was always, just like all wrapped up like, oh, the approach. I didn't even know what that meant. Like, oh, well, on this record, we really wanted to, blah, blah, blah. And to this day, I kind of feel like that's kind of bullshit, but also I feel like just too much of a dumb hick to understand. Like there's this like 2 combating forces inside of me. Like, fuck that. That's a bunch of shit. And then there's that part that's like, man, I'll never understand. But
approach is just, to me, I like to think about the guitar so I don't know. I feel like there's the piano and then there's the guitar. And of course, there's a whole world of other instruments, woodwinds, brass, whatever, orchestral stuff and everything. But really, like, if when I approach a guitar solo, I try to think about other instruments. And especially if I'm, like I said, when you're making an album and you've got like 12 solos in the whole album, and you're like, okay, how am I going to make each and every one of these different? Maybe like this one, and this one will be just straight up pentatonic, do whatever I want, do my noodle thing. That's what I normally do. And then maybe this other song, like, I like to think about it like maybe this song could sound cool with a piano solo, but I'll play it on guitar. So you have to think about whenever there's a pianos can't bend strings, so it's just all, it's all like super staccato, like picky, like, Michael Schenker kind of stuff or whatever. But it's or you say like, and Brian May is number 1 with this, where you could take a guitar and make it be like, maybe this song needs like a trombone solo, because like some people think like trombone's lame or whatever, but I'm like, there's not very many instruments that you can slide on, and everything like that. And electric guitar and trombone are a lot more similar than people think. So sometimes I'll think like when you listen to like a rad Oingo Boingo guitar solo, and it's just like, man, that's just like, you can play that on trombone no problem, just because there's so many like bends and tasty like drop offs and things like that. And so there's just, I like to think, I just like the approach to the guitar solo, if you will, is just kind of like, I have a guitar here and it's going to be the only instrument on the record, but what if it was, like dressed up in a different costume as a trombone or a synthesizer or just whatever, it's fun. Pianos are cool because they can play chords that guitars can't really.
Well, all kinds of with crazy
and things. So I whenever I try to wrap my mind around stuff, I'll usually try to look up like a guitar chord version of a song that doesn't have any guitar on it, that's only played on piano and stuff. Like the Cyndi Lauper's Time After Time actually is like one of the hardest songs to play on guitar. It's ridiculous.
Oh, dude.
That you wouldn't think it is, but it's just absolutely absurd.
I've learned that song inside and out on bass as well. But the bass on that song is synth bass. It's not even electric bass. So it's, even that is weird to play on the bass. But the guitar part on there is fucking dynamite.
You got to be a master to play that flawlessly. You really do.
I've really been going down the 80s music rabbit hole lately. And now I ripped the frets out of this Yamaha bass back here.
Ooh, I love that.
I ripped the frets out so that I could learn Every Time You Go Away by Paul Young.
Hell
Okay?
yeah.
Because it's a sick ass Pino Palladino bass line. And I became so obsessed with the song and the bass line that I had to play it. So I fucking changed the life of this instrument forever. And I learned it, and it's great. I mean, far from mastered it, but now I'm making a playlist of fretless bass songs. So
that's so cool.
It's great. Now I'm like super hyped on getting an upright. Like that's the kind of asshole I am. I'm like, well, I learned 2 songs on the fretless. I'm going to get an upright. Fuck it.
Right. The little electric ones are quite compact.
Sure.
We played with this amazing band from Philadelphia. You might have heard of them, called Stinking Lizaveta.
I don't know. Sounds
they're
killer though.
They've been around forever. Just crazy jazz metal band. And I used to go see them when I was, I don't know, 17, 18, 19, when I first moved to Austin. They toured with a lot of other bands that I don't even remember who they were playing with now because they just blew me away. The guy Yanni Papadopoulos was their guitar player, and his brother Alexei was the bass player, and he played an electric stand-up upright bass. And they would do stuff that blew my mind on guitar. I will never forget those shows. Yanni was one of the first guys that I ever really saw like turn screaming into his bridge pickup into a part in a song. And stuff like that. Their drummer was this lady, Cheshire, who she had so much enthusiasm and just confidence in playing like their crazy jazz metal stuff they would do. They were Stinking Lizaveta. They were a phenomenal band. Everybody go check them out.
I'm going to look that up. Well, so it sounds, I mean, I'm stoked to hear that you are into all kinds of music. It sounds like.
I have one rule. I just don't listen to stuff that sucks. That's
a great rule. That's a great rule.
Anything can be good. Anything can be bad. I don't like demonizing stuff. That's when you just like, I don't know. That's when the level of ignorance takes over anything. It's just because like people say like TV is the devil. It's like, no, the devil is the devil.
Yeah.
Like the TV is just TV. You can use it for good or evil, like whatever you want to use it for. The TV isn't evil, or things like that. Like country music sucks. Like actually it's amazing. It's phenomenal. A lot of stuff came from it. Maybe that one song sucks, but you can't just demonize a whole genre. You know what I mean? There's stuff to like about anything. Even like take like the worst, crappiest pop album. I don't know. Like put it on. If it's 45 minutes long, like there's probably going to be something on there you like at some point. It might not even be a whole song or something. But I don't know. There's just I don't like to just write off wide swaths of music.
I think that if you listen to just about anything with the right ears, you'll find something that you can appreciate about it,
totally.
Whether it's the performance or maybe some production quality or whatever. But is there anything that you're super into that would surprise people?
I've been pretty vocal about a lot of my stranger, I guess, things. Like I'm a huge Prince fan. I mean, especially since his death.
I don't trust people who don't like Prince.
Yeah, me either. I don't know. But since his death, I know he would. I don't know. Basically, everything that's happened since Prince died, it would be completely against his wishes. And while I have an awareness of that, I'm also so stoked that you can like look up all the old footage now and like spend hours just like checking out the old concerts and things that he used to pay people so much money to scrub from the internet on a daily basis and things like that. Right. Now those people aren't getting paid anymore, so all the stuff is just online, and like the only people actually doing the scrubbing are the people that are in charge of his estate. And so like every once in a while something might get removed. Because of all this, I found out about I guess this was pretty well known within Super Prince fandom circles, but I didn't know that there was a 4th Prince and the Revolution album in its entirety, fully fleshed out, that got totally swept under the rug. Basically, there for those that don't know Prince, he put out 5 albums under the name Prince, and then with Purple Rain began the band Prince and the Revolution, who did Prince, who did Purple Rain, Around the World in a Day, and then Under the Cherry Moon. Or I'm sorry, that was it's called Parade. It's the soundtrack for the movie Under the Cherry Moon. And then that was it. And then the band broke up, and then he put out his best album ever, Sign of the Times, as Prince again. But there was a fourth Revolution album in there called Dream Factory.
Where did it run in the sequence of those?
After Parade, but before Sign of the Times. And a lot of the songs off of Sign of the Times were from those sessions. And so it was like basically Prince like had the idea for the Dream Factory album, and they recorded the whole thing and did it, and then had all these other songs. And like I guess he got in a row with Wendy and Lisa, and like their contracts were severed, and just whatever happened. Like the Revolution broke up. So Prince then wanted to do a triple album called Crystal Ball that was going to be like the biggest thing he ever released. And then he was also going to release an album of him as a female alter ego named Camille that had a bunch of songs. It was just like too much at once, and the label was like, you can't do all this. You can't do a triple album. You can't do this female thing. Just like put together a double album, we'll put it out. And so all these songs and all these ideas got boiled down into Sign of the Times, which I think is his best album. And it's certainly my favorite, but all the other stuff just got left behind. Pretty much all the Camille songs ended up getting placed somewhere else, and some of the Dream Factory songs made it onto the Crystal Ball that eventually got released, which was more of like a mishmash of like collected B-sides and stuff like that. It wasn't the triple album that he had wanted to release, but yeah, for whatever reason, Dream Factory was just hanging out there, and it's been bootlegged for years in fan circles, and like it's been removed from the internet now, but for a while there, I found it, and I was like, you have got to be kidding me. It's like, imagine if you were like,
well, wait a minute, back up. Like it's not the versions that ended up on
no
Sign of the Times are re-recorded versions of the songs, right?
Pretty much, yes.
So the performances and the players they're
all the
different.
They're different.
It is a completely different.
It's its own thing. It's its own sound. And honestly, I think it's better than Around the World in a Day and Parade combined. I mean, like this, because after Purple Rain, like everybody had their eye on Prince. You know, when you get that big, right, you don't stand a chance in hell of putting out another hit record. It takes like a really super dose of lightning for that to happen, you know. But it's, you know, so he just I don't know, he wasn't afraid to just shelf something and just say like, never mind, next, you know. Right. But it's just like I told my friends, I was like, imagine if like you're the biggest David Bowie fan and you know everything about David Bowie, but Diamond Dogs never existed, you know. And then all of a sudden you find out after he died that Diamond Dogs drops, and you're like, he had this the whole time and he never dropped it. Like, what? I don't know. It's like that good. It's crazy. There's some songs on there that he sold to other people, like a song called Train, which is probably my favorite song on the album, that he eventually gave to Mavis Staples when she did her record, and she sings it on there. Her version sucks compared to his, man. I mean, like the dude, and he was the master.
Incredible.
She's incredible, yeah, but her version pales in comparison to his.
Right.
It's just wild. And I know that a lot of these songs on this record, Dream Factory, got put on the new Sign of the Times deluxe reissue that just came from the Prince estate. But not all of them, because I looked at that whole track list and I was like, nah, dude, they're missing this one. So it's
wow.
I might have to go on the dark web and actually like download my bootleg of it. I don't like doing that. I really don't. Put it out, Prince Estate. If you put out Dream Factory, I'll be the first dude in line. I promise.
Was there a box set that just came out recently?
They keep doing them all. They did a Purple Rain box set. They did a 1999 one, and the latest one to come out was the Sign of the Times one.
I bought the book. I haven't even looked all the way through it yet.
Oh man, there's so much there. I'm a total dork for Prince. He was just whenever I first discovered him, it was on the Arsenio Hall show. I think I was, I don't know, 10, maybe even younger, like 9 or 10, something like that. It was when the Love Symbol album came out, and he was singing "My Name Is Prince," and he had on the cop hat with the gold chains that covered his face, and his microphone was a golden gun that he was like singing it. I just thought, like, who is this crazy person? And then the next thing I saw was him like on SNL with his ass hanging out of his pants and everything. And I don't know, just for some reason I was just like, this dude is fearless.
No, for
you know
real.
What I mean? It was like, and it, especially growing up in Texas, like in the homophobic fucking racist ass bullshit. I don't know, something about like this totally fearless heterosexual black man dressing and acting like this, and just playing the guitar like the plane's going down. You know what I mean? It blew me away from a very young age, and I'm still the biggest Prince fan.
Did you see him live? He's fucking ferocious. I saw him a half a
I
dozen
never saw
times.
him live. I've seen just about every band I ever wanted to see live. I never got to see Prince, and you know what? I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Because I don't know, like in life, you got to have things to look forward to. And while I don't have seeing Prince live to look forward to, it'll always be that one thing I missed. I'm a really lucky son of a bitch, man. I've got to do a lot of fucking crazy things that nobody will ever get to do. So I'm totally okay with never having seen Prince. And also, he'll still be that larger than life like thing. I'm actually really good friends with a band from Austin. They're kind of a Latin, or I guess kind of a mini orchestra, if you want to call it that. They were like a 13-piece band called Grupo Fantasma. And they were hired as Prince's band for quite a while during the 2006, 7 to 2010 era. And Grupo, they were the only band that would turn. I don't know if you've ever been to emos in Austin back in the day. Yeah. It was like the grittiest, dirtiest, nastiest punk club. But they would play there and turn it into a total dance party. And they were the most fun band to go see. And their rise sort of occurred at about the same time as ours in the Austin scene, although on two separate ends of the spectrum. And they were a bunch of Latino dudes, not all Latinos. One of them was black, one of them was white, too, but mostly Latino dudes on tour with Prince, who was just my favorite artist. And then we were on tour with Metallica. And they were so we were a bunch of funky white boys that just wanted Prince stories from them, and they were a bunch of Latino dudes that just wanted Metallica stories from us. So we had a whole bond there. Oh, wow. That we stayed friends for years. Actually, the guitar player of Grupo Fantasma, Adrian Casada, he's in that band Black Pumas now. If you've heard of them, he's their producer as well. He was the one that produced High Country for The Sword, and I was specifically going into those sessions. I told him, I was like, look, man, like, I want this to be our Prince record. I want this to be our Sign of the Times, like all these crazy different sounding songs all mashed together into one crazy double album, and everything like that. So there was very calculated decision-making in those days.
I love that. That's the one thing when taking it back to the approach question, I will, like, if I have a section to put a solo in, very rarely do I write a solo before being in the studio. Sometimes it just comes automatically, right? Sometimes it's just there. Just pluck it out.
I used to write them out, like, totally, like The Sword, especially in the early days, would have everything 100% written out before we went to the studio, mostly because we couldn't afford the time to sit around and jerk around. Right. And I was also very young when I joined The Sword. I wasn't particularly comfortable with soloing like a wild animal. It definitely took years of being on the road and seeing other people do it. And The Sword used to jam a little bit. We weren't a jam band by any means, but we would allow ourselves improvisational sections of the jammed out parts of certain songs. If we had like an hour and 10-minute set and we only had 50 minutes worth of material, we had to kind of fudge it a little bit here and there. So I eventually got very comfortable, especially I'll say again, traveling around with bands like Clutch and Metallica and Lamb of God, and just really watching those guitar heroes work their magic. I eventually grew into my own around the kind of the tail end of the Gods of the Earth tour and from into Warp Riders. I would map out all my solos and stuff, but these days I've got a lot of confidence in my ability to hear a solo as I'm improvising, and then so what I'll typically do is, I mean, sometimes just I'll have a melody in my head and that's just the solo, whatever, but sometimes when it's like, hey, we need a solo here, like, okay, cool, how many bars? Like 8 bars. Like, okay, cool, let's just run a couple and see what happens. And then eventually some voicings kind of come up that you like and stuff, and then I'll just kind of craft it on the spot that way instead of poring over it on my own for hours and hours or whatever. It's all about having faith in yourself and also listening. Just listen to the universe. It's all there. I'm a firm believer in that we don't make up anything. It's all already there. We just have to listen. And if you listen the right way, you'll hear the right stuff.
I think that's true. Do you still learn other people's songs and other people's solos when they catch your ear?
I try to make it a point to. I will say I do teach guitar lessons online. I don't like the word lessons. I like to think about it more as like a conversational, like guitar therapy for people. I have no problem teaching somebody how to play guitar from the ground up, but I feel like I really shine whenever it's intermediate players that are just trying to get a better understanding of the fretboard or their body as it relates to guitar and stuff like that. One thing I always tell them is that I think it's very important to learn a song you don't like.
Right.
And I'll say that because I'll usually preface it with like, pretend you got a job, like a gig in a wedding band, and they're paying you so much money you can't say no, and the bride has to know or has to hear this one song, and you hate it the most. It's like the song you hate the most, but you have to play it. And just pretend, like, just try to get into this of somebody who like has to learn this in earnest and everything. And what I find that happens is that most of the time you find out that you actually do like the song. Oh, hey, how about also it forces you to use a different part of your brain as you're learning the song. So it's like, instead of using that part of your brain that likes the song or whatever, you're using a part of your, like, the really analytical part of your brain that is trying to figure out what's going on, how the chord progression works. Maybe there's a weird chord in there you've never played before. And
Right.
Also, I don't like to sit down in front of a chord chart and just learn every single variation or whatever like that. I think unless you have a practical application for those things, you're not really going to retain that information. And so, like, when you really sit down to like learn a whole song, sometimes you find your chord progression that you're like, oh, that's why I like the song. The song that I blah blah blah. And it just creates like a better relationship between your ear and your hand. I like to talk about ear-hand coordination. A lot of people like to talk about like the hand-eye coordination, you know, and everything. But I feel like the eyes really detract from learning sometimes. So focused on like what you're seeing, you're not, your eyes are like taking over all the attention. So I try to, tell people, just like, take your eye off the fretboard and try to figure this stuff out looking at it. And it's just, you're going to retain a lot more information that way. You're going to learn a lot more. You're going to just develop a greater relationship between your hand and your ear, and you're going to become an overall better player.
That's a fact.
But I love learning the songs. Anytime I hear something on the radio, the reason that I like to say that is because if you do it enough, you have that relationship between your hand and your ear, you'll just be able to be driving down the road, hear a song on the radio, and instantly know how to play it, just because you can see the music with like your third eye. So your eyes are so used to like not looking at your fretboard, your hand will just know what to do, just because you just have that relationship with music.
Right. Yeah, of course. That's also, that's like interval, just like learning the relationship of the fretboard, and you're in a certain position, being able to move to the next place or find the next note that you're imagining and express it out. Just like this it's like having a conversation. People used to say, oh, music is a language. Exactly. And I'd be like, that sounds like some weird hippie bullshit. I don't understand, but it's the truth.
It's totally true.
Yeah.
And when you take your eyes off the fretboard as you're improvising, and you have that really solid relationship with the fretboard, with your hand, with your ear, the fact that your eyes aren't looking at your hand, it's going to allow that part of your brain to think about what your next move is as you're doing it. So you're going to be able to like think about, things coming up, instead of like, and honestly, sometimes you're going to catch yourself, like, if you get really good at it, you're going to catch yourself thinking about like what you're going to have for dinner. Or like, you're going to be like, man, like, well, how come I was late for that thing? Like, your brain, like, that part of your brain will totally wander. And that's how you know you're doing it right, is because, like, I'm not to say that it's bad that you're not paying attention or anything. It's just like, that's how you know, like, you have the music in you, is because you're able to do it while thinking about something completely different, or like have a conversation with somebody while you're doing it, just because you're not looking at your hand.
Well, the luxury of touring puts you, not to say that all touring is luxury, but touring and playing every night or almost every night it forces that relationship on development quicker, right? Than if you were sitting at home practicing, because you are putting that in practice,
exactly.
Every night.
I used to say the only way to get ready to play a show is to play a show.
Yeah,
you can practice for 100 times in a row, and your first show will suck or whatever. Just because that's just the nature of it. The Sword would always make it a practice to book like 4 or 5 of the not that any crowd is better than any other crowd or market or whatever you want to call it, but it was we would book some kind of like smaller club gigs, on the way to the bigger ones, just because like by the time you get like 4 or 5 shows under your belt, you're hot, baby, you're cooking, you can do anything. And also I know times are weird right now. This is really bad advice to take at the moment, but back in the good old days, the only way for your band to get good was to hit the road. I mean, you can play the same town, twice a month, and you can own whatever club, those 2 nights a month that you play. And it's really easy to like get stuck in that bubble and think like, I made it. Yeah, we're hot, baby. But unless you hit the road, unless you
play in front of some crowds that don't give a fuck.
Play in front of some crowds that don't give a fuck or that aren't even there. A perfect example, dude, on the Apocryphon tour, for the Sword, this would have been the spring of 2014. The Apocryphon tour for us was so long. It was like 260 something shows or whatever. It was a long tour. And coming out of it, the very last shows, it was I think we sold out the entire West Coast. So it was like Seattle sold out, Portland sold out, San Francisco sold out, LA. It wasn't even LA. We played Anaheim at the House of Blues in Disneyland, sold out. Okay.
Great.
So sold out the next night. Phoenix sold out the next night. El Paso. We went on stage. This is the last show. It's like the 264th show or whatever, the Apocryphon tour. Last show. We just sold out the entire West Coast. El Paso, Texas. We went on to absolutely no one.
No.
There was like maybe 30 people that showed up to the show, and they were all outside smoking whenever our like stage time came on. So we're like, screw it, boys. Last night of tour, let's get fucking weird. You know what I mean? So it's like it's just because you're hot somewhere doesn't mean you're hot everywhere, man. That's a fucking tough lesson to learn, but it's true. The
only thing that I have to gauge this against, and it's not even a very, I mean, you probably played with Motorhead, right?
We did. I think only one time.
Just about everyone played with Motorhead, but we toured in Germany with Motorhead as main support. Tough crowd.
Germans are tough anyway. Tough crowds. Even if they're your biggest fan, they're super critical of you. Really. we call it the German compliment. Do you know about that?
Yeah. Oh, I noticed that you changed the bridge in the one song. I'm not so sure, but thank you for arriving.
Yeah. Touring bands know about the German compliment. They'll come up to you and say like, that show was absolutely awful. But I bought everything at your merch table, so it's okay. You're like, what? Like, whatever, man. I don't know. I was like, are we gonna fight or are we friends? I don't know. I really don't know. But go on. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you. But that must have been crazy though. Like just those crowds. I mean, regardless of whether they're into you or not. Like, I mean,
that is a tough crowd. German Motorhead crowd, and we were we toured all through Germany, like the former Eastern, Germany. And it's fucking gnarly. It's like everywhere is Detroit. It's everywhere is Detroit.
Bombed out, son. Yeah.
But what was touring with Metallica like? Was that a tough crowd?
No. Okay. So touring with a band like that is wild. You never know what kind of show environment you're going to walk into, because like Europe and the States are two totally different animals in this regard, but if we're talking Europe, some like the Grand Mercy in Paris, there's not a lot going on in that venue. It's a very, very old venue. It's been there a long time. It holds like 14,000 people. And like when they all get there, they're all super excited to see the show. And you got 14,000 people cramming there to scream, and you sell it out 3-4 nights in a row. It's nuts, But then you play like the O2 in London, which in itself is a much larger venue, but it also has like a shopping mall attached to it and all these crazy restaurants and all this stuff. So like, you're playing 2 nights sold out at the O2 in London, and you're like, hell yeah, this is going to be amazing. And you go on stage and there's like 5 people in the whole arena, or even if there's like 5,000 people in the arena, they're so spread out that it just feels like nothing. And you're like, oh, this is weird. You know what I mean? Not that I'm not grateful. It's just like you just never know what you're gonna get. So like, I mean,
it's weird supporting a big band, you know?
Yeah. The coolest stretch of that tour was arguably the first, because this would have been in 2008. The biggest show that the Sword had ever played at that point was Bonnaroo of 2008. We went on the whatever stage they call it, this, that, what stage or whatever. But we played to like 10,000-ish people, you know, and that was the biggest show we'd ever played. Well, the next show and that was the last show before we linked up with Metallica. So the next show was our first show with Metallica in Bergen, Norway, which was to like 20,000 people. So that was like double the biggest show we'd ever played instantly. Right. The next show on that tour was like St. Petersburg, Russia, and there was like 40,000 people there. So then it was like, this is again the biggest show. It was, so for 2 weeks straight, it was like the biggest show we'd ever played. And it culminated in Istanbul, Turkey, which was still to this day the biggest show I'd ever played. There's about 65, 70,000 people there, they thought. And they were all there to see us. It was like a Monsters of Rock show, just everybody crammed in the soccer stadium. It was fucking nuts, dude. It was, I don't know. Some people ask me, like, are you nervous, like, going on stage with that many people? And I always tell them, like, no, dude, this is what I was born to do. Like, seriously, like, cops make me nervous.
Right.
This is what I'm here for, you know? And so it was just, it was really eye-opening too, in a lot of ways. Just like I said, like, travel eliminates bias, and I wish more people traveled and saw different parts of the world and different ways of living and stuff. Because Metallica, you know, they have like an insane pyrotechnic show, and before they play one, all these bombs go off, and it's super crazy, and like machine gun sounds and stuff. And whenever they did that in Istanbul, all 60-something whatever thousand people hit the pavement because they thought there were bombs dropping and machine guns being fired and shit. Like, that's just in their culture, you know. They're just like any second now, like, oh shit, there's bombs again, fuck, you know. Like, everybody hit the deck, you know. And so and then it took them until like to start with, oh, part of the show, Jesus, you know. It's when you see that many people react that way at the same time, it's fucking crazy.
We've got it pretty good. You know,
we do. I like to complain about it because a lot could be better, but that's what I always came away from those tours and those situations feeling very lucky that we got to come back to the country that we were able to come back to. This was the Obama years. Yeah. I'm not saying anything. He did a lot of fucked up shit too, but I'm just saying that we used to tour when Bush was in office overseas, and it was cool because, like, you get into a taxi cab in Belgium or something, and the guy would be like, oh, you American? And be like, yeah. And he's like, you like George Bush? And we're like, fuck George Bush. And he would go, you saying fuck George Bush? I was like, yeah, the guy's a piece of shit. And he'd be like, I'm taking you to the bar right now. I'm going to tell the bartender all your drinks free, all this and everything. That didn't happen with Trump. No, dude, we're fucked. Dude, you go over there, they look at you like a fucking piece of shit, I'm sure, man. Like, unfortunately, we didn't head over to Europe since he made it into office, but I would no, I ain't going there. I mean, you can't even go there now. But yeah, like all this, I'm sorry, like all these stories.
No, it's okay, man. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. It's, you know, we're ramping up. We're getting close to the, what are we, like 50 days away from the election, you know? Let's talk about big shows. You know what I prefer? I prefer a club show. Yeah. And like a large club.
I love club shows.
I want to be able to see the sweat on the brow of the person in the very back of the room. You know,
there's nothing like being, I don't know, like, you know, smartphones and everybody in the front row with their phones out and everything. And it's kind of a bummer and everything like that. But let's just pretend that like smartphones aren't a thing for 1 second. There was nothing I used to love more than just being like 6 inches away from the front row and everybody being respectful and cool and just, you know, and just sweating on each other and just having the best time. There was nothing like a club show like that. I mean, like, big arena shows can be cool. I like that. It's just a different beast. Like, your gear has to be different, you know, and like, I don't know. I like being on a leash. I like being plugged into a guitar with a cord that's plugged into an amp and just tearing loose. It's kind of dangerous because I mean, when you think about it, like the 3-4 people on stage, whatever, have control over the entire room, you know, and they can turn on you.
It's
and
a lot
very
more.
quickly, you
It's
know,
a lot
and
more like being in a sleeping bag with a bunch of strangers than being on a helicopter pad next to a platoon at attention. You know, it's like
yeah,
you're just all wrapped up. You know, Loaded played the main stage at Download one year, and that was easily by a very large gap the biggest crowd I ever played to.
That's like 140 something thousand more,
I don't know.
maybe. I don't know.
I mean,
it's
we
crazy.
played, like 3 band. It was the sun was still out. You know, we were like third on the stage that day out of like 5 or 6 or whatever. Def Leppard headline. So it was, it was like there's a lot of motherfuckers, but we get up there, we do our set. People knew a couple of our singles, but like we played our set like we played any set in a club or whatever. And it's like we did not have, we didn't have command of this crowd, and that was a weird feeling.
Yeah.
You're like playing for however many thousands of people that is. I think that I would prefer to play for 1,000 people that were there, that weren't looky-loos.
Totally.
But incredible experience. It was like, I mean, even just like being able to stand on the subs, because I was on a wireless. I was out there in front of the big jumbotron, just like eating it up. Like, well, I don't know when this is going to happen again. Let's see what happens when I go out here.
You only get your 30 minutes. Yeah, totally, man. Like, and then it's back to porta potties and festival catering for you after that. So you got to live up your show. Absolutely.
That's it, dude.
It can sound bad. I hate when you have a bad sounding show. And I will say that, like, I mean, it's like, this is one of the things I want to put in my book is like rules, like things to never do on stage. And then also let people know that when I broke these rules, but one of them is like, try not to throw a bitch fit on stage if your sound sucks, because nobody in the crowd knows that your sound sucks.
Right.
And if they just, and their only glimpse of you is what they see on stage for this 30 minutes. So if you spend 25 minutes of it just acting like a total B, like, because I don't know, you have to roll with the punches sometimes, especially the bigger the show, the more things that could go wrong. And just sometimes your sound sucks, and you just have to put on a smiley face and make sure everyone has a good time, because their sound doesn't suck.
Right.
And it's not, the show isn't about you. I know it's hard for musicians sometimes to like get over that ego of like, this is my show, this is my stage, blah, blah, blah. No, it's fucking not. It's everybody else's. That's the whole reason we're here, is because they all showed up to have a good time. And it's our job to make sure they have a good time. And sometimes them having a good time means you having to sacrifice your good time for a minute. And I'm sorry that, you don't agree with that or whatever. That's fine. That's your point of view. But that's just how I've always felt about it. There's nothing I hated more than going to see a band. I'm not going to name names, but going to see a band and the bass player doesn't like his monitor mix. So he picks up his monitor and he throws it.
Right.
Because he's a bad boy, or whatever. Like, dude, fuck
Tantrum.
off. Just play the bass, man. Like, I know, dude. It doesn't make you look cooler. It doesn't.
No, it doesn't make, no. Now you just look like an asshole, and you ruined the show.
Yeah.
Show's over.
It didn't have, totally. Because like everyone in the crowd's like, why is he mad? I don't know. He's yelling at somebody. I don't know. That's weird. I don't know. Just be cool, man.
I did have the good fortune of having Duff as my tour mentor for the last bit of it, but there were some lessons pretty hard learned. There were some lessons very hard learned. I definitely pulled some faux pas. I pulled some bad moves because I wasn't always a very graceful
I've done it too.
fella.
I used to pick, anytime my signal would die out, I used to get pissed, and I would pick up my pedal board and like slam it on the ground and stuff like that. It took me, I broke all the rules, trust me, but like, I learned from my mistakes, and it's way cooler if something goes wrong, just to take your cable out of your tuner and plug it directly into your amp, and just don't stop the song, don't act like a piece of crap, just like, just put it directly into your amp and just get through the show, because that's going to make you look way cooler than if you throw a total fit because your toys don't work.
Absolutely.
But I will say, since you brought up Duff, I only met him once. He was one of the sweetest people I've ever meet of like
Oh,
a
he's the
person of that
best.
caliber. That also I'll say that he's famously sober.
Yeah.
But when we were hanging out, you and I, when Loaded was on tour, on the one of the Soundwave tours, I can't remember what year, but it was I think we were back to back on one of those stages. But all the bands on these massive tours in Australia would all get on the same airplane,
Yeah.
and it was just fucking nuts because you'd be like, dude, like Duff McKagan, like all of Slayer, like Zach De La Rocha, like everybody, like if this plane goes
Everyone.
down, the music industry's fucked, you know.
Yeah.
Like, please land this plane. But I ran into Duff in one of the airport bars, and number one, it's really tough for a sober person to hang out in a bar.
Yeah.
So props to him for that. And also, Australia, they never had 9/11, so their airports are like a totally different game. Like you don't have to take your shoes off, your belt, whatever. I walked through fucking security with an open bottle of whiskey in my hand. They were just like laughing at me, and so I was like sitting in some airport bar drinking my own bottle of whiskey, which that would never happen in the States.
Nope.
They wouldn't allow that shit. Everybody just thought it was funny. I was it eventually ended up in a circle next to Duff, and I just said my 2 cents, like, hey man, it's big fan. It's so nice to meet you. And he was super cordial and just I felt kind of like me, just wanted to talk to anybody and didn't care. And this was all about having a good time. So yeah, I was very impressed.
No, he's the best. Can we talk about that tour for a minute?
Soundwave? Oh yeah.
Probably. I mean, I know that a lot of shit went down with that guy. What's his name?
AJ.
Funny guy. A lot of I know some
But
shit.
what would
went
you?
down.
He's like, I mean, he's like a mafioso type crime boss that, like, got involved in like a money laundering scheme in the guise of a rock and roll tour that was just like, oh man, it was just the story goes. Somebody needs to make a documentary about that shit. You know what?
Had
I don't
a great
know.
time. We got paid, and
See,
got
that's a different story. You got paid. Everybody got paid. It's like, hey, that was fun as fuck.
Right. Well, we were. How long was that? I mean, how long were you guys in Australia? 10 days. Something like that, 10, 12 days?
2 weeks tops.
Yeah,
if that,
maybe 2 weeks. So let's just say 2 weeks. I got 8 massages in 2 weeks. It was fucking wonderful. And I don't know if you picked up on this gag, because, you show up at the festival site, hit the massage tent, and book your appointment straight away. And once I learned this gag, you could book ahead so that you get to the next festival. Like, okay, now we're in Adelaide.
Yep.
I want to book my time for 2:30. Check in with your tour manager. Make sure what time you're
massages.
You're gonna hit. Yeah. And then,
although in Australia they call it massage.
Yeah.
Hey, go get a massage. Yes.
You learn that they'll send these massage therapists to your hotel to work on you. And
well, it's because you're in Duff's band. I didn't know. We didn't get that.
That might be true. But also, like, there's that factor, and they fucking would send them to the side waves for you, your side shows.
Totally.
So I had a massage at every single show, and 2 or 3 at my room. It was incredible. It was the best tour I've ever been on.
Incredible. They really, okay. So, like, for those that don't know, Soundwave was like every kind of rock band all in one festival. Like, and it was only one day. It was like 69 or 78 bands or whatever like that in a day, and you could see like Monster Magnet or the Ataris or Garbage or Less Than Jake. Or it was just like every band imaginable that like signed up that year. They would just haul them all out, somehow have them all play in a day and have enough. It's fucking crazy, dude. Were you?
But it was also,
were you there?
It also played like 6 or 7 cities.
I think it was 5. I think 5? It was Brisbane, Sydney, Melbourne, Adelaide, Perth. It was 5 cities.
And then the side.
But it took like, because you had to fly in between every show.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. So it was nuts. Australia's crazy. I love it there so much, man.
I also did. What a fucking
I
place.
wish I could go back. I really do. The Sword was fortunate enough to do a couple of our own Australian tours because of that. We went there with Metallica also, which were some of the biggest shows we'd ever played. I will say that because you brought up the Motorhead thing, I finally remembered that the Sword did play with Motorhead one time, and it was two bands. It was the Sword and Motorhead, and the Sword has had like some pretty hilarious bills where, like, I mean, we were a hardworking band. We were well known, but we never had a hit. You know, we weren't like on the radio or anything like that. We weren't even on MTV really. There was no MTV when we came around, and barely anyway. And it was just really funny how we ended up in these positions of like this one time we just got the call to open for Guns N' Roses. This is back when it was like Axl and Friends, but still, you know, it's a huge deal, you know. And so it was like, how many bands are on the bill? They're like, it's just you and Guns N' Roses. Like, holy shit. Or like you and Motorhead, like just the bill. And then there was a couple of Metallica shows where it was just two bands. It was just the Sword and Metallica. It was just fun. I was like, can I get a copy of this poster?
Yeah, no, that's look, up on top of that, all that up there is posters that I just haven't framed yet.
Yeah.
And somewhere I have a poster that I tore down from one of these giant venues in Germany, which is a Motorhead poster that it's like Motorhead, Loaded, and Graveyard.
Oh.
Yeah, baby.
Killer.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man.
So good.
That was one of my favorite tours that the Sword ever did. Was it was Graveyard's first U.S. tour back in 2008. It was Graveyard, the Sword, Clutch for 6 weeks in the States. It was just,
oh my God, that would be incredible.
We showed them how it's done. One of my favorite stories from that tour was they showed up to the venue one day. This was like Nashville or Memphis, somewhere in the South. I don't know,
Yeah.
But they were just 5 Swedes in a van. They didn't even have an American with them. They were just like, somehow they got this van and like the people just let them drive it off. And so we kind of had to like really like show them the ropes, like touring the States and what it's like and stuff. Because touring Europe's completely different than touring the States, especially in a van. But they came to the show one day, like for load in, and was like, "Hey guys, what's up?" And like, "Oh man, we stopped for lunch at this place, and there's all these girls there, and they're coming to the show tonight or now." And I was like, "Oh really? Like seriously?" And like, "Yeah, man. Like they're all like working there, and they're really into rock music, and they wanted to come see us play tonight." And I was like, "Really? That's all? What was it called?" And they were like, "Hang on, Swala, what was the place called?" Hooters. Yeah, it's called Hooters. It's just down the street. Blah, 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 blah. I was just like, oh, dudes. Let me guess, they were all real nice to you. They're like, oh yeah, they're real nice. I was like, oh, all right, guys. Time for a cold fact.
when I was a kid, I lived in a tiny town, and I escaped this tiny town by the fucking skin of my teeth, right? But I joined
what town?
Granite Falls, Washington, the town of many pitfalls. Many pitfalls. And I probably went to as many funerals in high school as I have been to since high school.
Yeah.
That kind of
heard.
Vibe. So
yeah.
But I got out of there, and it's a great place, and I have a lot of friends that are still there. But I joined the Marine Corps. That was sort of my ticket out, right?
Totally.
Before I moved to Seattle, and whatever, I had a lot of confidence building that I needed, and that certainly helped me. But when I was stationed at Camp Pendleton, there was this mall that we would all take the bus to, and at the mall there was a clothing store where you would go, and the girls would go into the dressing room with you and help you try on clothes.
Dang.
Which was really, but even then I knew, like, get the fuck out of here. Like, like, you make your commission. You don't need to come up in here and act like you like me, because I know you don't. I know that you are not into me. Like, there's nothing special about me that the last 483 Marines that paraded through here to buy a pair of jeans, but good on them for hustling. I mean,
But you bought the jeans, didn't you?
Oh, for sure. I mean, the girls made commission, and you would hear these guys come back to the barracks just talking crazy talk, and it was just,
Oh, God.
and I would always be like, "You guys are suckers."
Was that the name of the store? Suckers.
It could have been, yeah, Suckerbergs. Fuck. So, have you started writing?
No. Well, yes and no. I have
Sketched out ideas.
a running notebook pad of ideas and stuff like that. I did a bunch of stand-up gigs as under the guise of tour stories, road stories. A friend of mine, JT Habersat, he works with Altercation comedy, Altercation Records, and they used to do a comedy festival in Austin. It unfortunately got canceled this year, as everything else did. But as I've been a part of that for a few times, and he would take me on the road he basically just takes dudes in bands and puts them in a stand-up environment to tell tour stories and in a stand-up comedy environment, which not necessarily always has to be funny or whatever, but it usually ends up being very entertaining. And
right,
he had me out. He brought Cheetah Chrome from Dead Boys. He brought Scott Reynolds from All. Who else did he bring? Mr. Lifto from the Jim Rose Circus. He brought out and everything. So I mean, like, it's all kinds of us misfits. Everything got together and told our fucked up tour stories, and it just really cut my teeth understanding what stories are entertaining for people and which ones aren't really. Like, not every story that I think is hilarious like really resonates with like a room full of people. I learned that the hard way. And also some things that seem super base or maybe even not that funny to me are like highly entertaining for people. So, I got really good at like working the room and understanding like things like that. So that's when I sort of started to get the idea of writing a book together. And then, like I said, I'll probably put something like it out eventually if this Kickstarter doesn't work out, which it won't. It will work out. But even if it doesn't, I mean, like, I'll do something like this eventually. It's just right now I feel like I was like hot with like having a really interesting perspective on the way things have gone down and being able to wrap it up in a nice, neat little package. And I'm also like, I don't like to half-ass things. I don't like to compromise with my art. I take a lot of pride in the things I create. I create for a living, and I have a vision in my head of what I want this book to be like, but I'm not going to invest the energy into it at this point in time if nobody wants to read it. And so sure. It's not like I'm daring you to back it, but it's just like I promise you I'm going to turn this genre on its head, because I'm by far the least famous person to ever attempt to write a book of this caliber. So it's not going to be the book of like me waking up, with a needle hanging out of my arm. It's all that's been written. You know what I mean? It's going to be me tackling basically every element of what it takes to be in a band and try to survive in the music industry. There's going to be a whole chapter about the road crew, and I want to interview all kinds of crew members from our past and just get their take on what it was like taking care of a fucking ding dong like me. I want to I have a whole chapter about the studio, and like how differently that can be from gig to gig or whatever like that. I had like talk about touring from bars to theaters to arenas and to giant fields full of nothing. It's funny how like you eventually get so big there's not even a building that can contain you. You have to play outside. Right. And so it's just, I just wanted to like dissect this entire music industry in a way that's going to be super accessible for everyone to understand and read, and to really feel like you're on the stage with me doing this crazy stuff, because I ended up in so many ridiculous situations over the years just because I kept putting one foot in front of the other. And I want to try to instill that, just that energy and that mentality in people. And just like, there's nothing that makes me sadder than thinking about like a list of accomplishments that never even got, any attention at all of the light of day. Like just like a whole list of ideas that just died because nobody ever did anything. Like if you have an idea, do it. Like, look at me. If I can do it, if I can come from absolutely nothing and end up in a world tour with Metallica, there's nothing stopping you from like realizing your crazy dream. It's, it's not going to be easy. You're going to have to sacrifice a lot. You're going to have to do a lot of really weird stuff probably. And like, you know, get into, I don't know, and it's not for everybody. I don't expect everybody to give up their life and like take my advice or anything like that. But it's just, I don't know. I feel like I have a really unique perspective on this rock that we live on. And I'm not afraid to put it into book form, but we shall see what happens, folks. If you want to back it, go ahead and put your money where my mouth is, and I will tell you all my ridiculous tour stories.
Have you considered the audiobook version, narrating?
I was, you know, originally I was going to, if it reached its goal, I was going to have a very modest stretch goal to fund the audiobook version of it. I used to do some voiceover work, and I know how much time it takes to actually create something of that caliber. So it does, you know, all this costs money, folks. I can't do it for free. If I could, I would, but I got kids to feed and stuff like that. Why everybody does, I know. But seriously, if and when I do the audiobook, I don't want to make an audio. I'm not just going to read it to you. I'm not just going to write you a book. I want to write the book. You know, I want to do the audiobook to this crazy thing. I want to present it like a 1940s like radio show where there's like sound effects and there's like, you know, like grooves that go in and out of the chapters. There are audiobooks that do that, and I've listened to them, and I feel like I could do it better. You know, I've got an ear for stuff. I know what sucks. I know what doesn't. You know, like when it came to doing the stand-up gigs, you know, I just thought about my favorite, you know, stand-up artists. I thought about Lenny Bruce, thought about Mitch Hedberg, I thought about you know, George Carlin, and all my favorites. And I just, you know, I looked at my least favorite ones, and I just don't do that. You know what I mean? It's just like when it comes to writing a book, you know, I've read 1,000 books probably over my life. I'm an avid reader, so I feel like I could totally do it, even though I never done it before. Like with the painting, like I never painted before, but I'm not afraid to just jump in the deep end and get myself into something that I'm not prepared for.
I think
I feel like I'm like Andy Dufresne in the Shawshank Redemption. Like, I'll crawl through the shit for you because I know there's rain at the end. I'll do it. I'll fucking do it.
I think that what you said earlier, there's a lot of about just saying yes. You know, I think there are a lot of people sitting around that are bored, that are frustrated, that are angry about having to be in lockdown or whatever right now.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I haven't felt like that even for, I haven't had time to feel like that because I've been too busy trying to keep myself busy.
Too,
you know?
Totally. Yeah. What was it? I follow Ice-T on Twitter. He's posted something that was like, you know, like when the going gets tough, hustlers figure it out. They don't complain. You know, It's like you just gotta like keep moving. You know, and that's I hope that I can bring that just awareness to people that like just keep moving, yo. Like I know it's really easy to sit around and complain and like feel sad about yourself and stuff like that. It happens to me all the time. I wake up every day with this fucking weight, just like everyone else, you know. But it's just about what you do with that weight, and I almost feel like an inspirational speaker or something at this point. But it's like the world needs it, man. The world needs some hope, you know, and just more people like just
take that frustration and anger and stuff it in your flux capacitor.
Yep.
And turn it into motivation and inspiration. Like if if the adversity or the whatever the hurdle is that is in front of you and in your life is like feels insurmountable, fucking good. Like nothing is.
Yeah.
You know, you see people out there with one hand fucking playing guitar fucking better than anyone that I know.
Yep.
You know,
for a fact, because I gave a lesson to a dude that had one hand, and I was shocked at how good he was at guitar. It was awesome.
I mean, you know, there are people with, you know, there are a lot of folks that just don't have it, that have it a lot harder than you do, period. You know?
Absolutely.
So, yeah, get over your bad self.
Yeah. I know it's hard. It's tough, man. Nothing in life ever came easy. Also, you know, I can't remember where I heard it, but somebody said one time that like, nobody ever accomplished anything worthwhile in life working 40 hours a week. You know, like if that's the standard, the goal for like, you know, the societal accomplishment or whatever like that. To make a difference, it takes so much more than 40 hours a week of work.
I don't remember the last time I only worked 40
I know,
hours
right?
A week.
Yeah.
Really? Maybe when I went on vacation 2 years ago, year
right,
and a half ago. maybe. I mean, when the shit hit the fan here, I got a second full-time job. I was loading UPS trucks.
Bro.
Not those brown things that roll around, semi-tractor
The big
trailers.
ones, the big dogs.
The semi-trucks by hand.
Yep.
You know,
Oh,
I didn't
damn,
have
dude.
fucking time to sit around and fucking cry about shit. Too busy trying to not be homeless, but you know.
Totally. Absolutely.
But yeah, I don't know. I think people just have to, people got to find a way to inspire themselves.
Yeah, I used to. People like to say like you gotta look for the light at the end of the tunnel, and I don't know, man. I don't think there's a light at the end of the tunnel. You got to make your own light. You really do. You have to like look inside yourself and find that thing that makes you happy and figure out how to do it. And it's not going to be easy. I'm sorry, I don't have any easy answers for people. Like some people ask me shit, tunnel,
put some spurs on your boots and drag them on the rocks and make sparks. Light your way.
Exactly. It's cheesy as it sounds. That's it. I mean, like people ask me a lot for like advice or whatever, music industry advice or this or that and everything. I'd be like, I don't have any easy answers for you, just so you know that.
Yeah,
it's going to take a lot of doing and it's going to suck a lot.
It's
sometimes,
vicious,
but 24 hours from now,
you never know.
Doing something fucking really weird. Yeah.
That's the thing. Doing this show has been pretty incredible. And for whatever reason, I mean, I'm just too stubborn to not do it anymore. And it's a real pendulum. Like I see other people like, I fucking peaked at like number 6 because I'm a fool enough to pay attention to the charts. I'm like, I peaked at number 6, but also, maybe 2 weeks later, I'm number 200 or whatever. It's just like, it's a real pendulum swing.
You never know.
And I don't know. Like I hear no a lot, way more than people think. Like 80% of the time I hear no or nothing. And
that's even worse than no.
For sure. I'd much rather hear no than nothing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But for whatever reason, I have this foolish idea, because I also grew up with nothing. Like I grew up in, not in a killer Airstream, but in like a trailer.
I worked for that. I'm just playing.
Like I grew up in a trailer
too,
by the river
for sure,
and on food stamps, and had jobs from the time I was in the 6th grade on, and was buying my own school clothes, the whole deal, And
Washington's tough. People don't think about, when people think about Washington, they think about Seattle.
Oh no,
you know what I mean? The whole state is a lot of poverty up there.
I grew up in a pretty depressed logging town. Like the logging industry was dying. I mean, the rich kid, I just remember thinking now, of course, like, I'm like, I guess I'm middle class or lower middle class. I don't know. But, I just remember my opinion of who the rich people were. Like rich people had televisions or cable, like they're rich, or they got money. That's what they didn't have money. They had a fucking TV.
On the East Coast, they spent all their money. They ain't hurting.
Yeah, nope. Nope. They ain't hurting. But it's funny, like some people in the town where I live now, which is really small, and like, this is an agricultural community. There's a real mixed population here, and there are folks here who think I have money because I have a car payment. Yeah. And I'm like, buddy, I'm living check to check. You need to check.
Dude,
yourself.
all musicians are like people like, I don't know, that think that like, I don't know, like I've had people come at me and say like, how come you're asking for money, man? You didn't make any money in 15 years in the Sword. Be like, yeah, I did, but we're not on tour right now, so I don't have any money. Like I play music for a living. That means I have no money,
Right. Yeah, it's very, it's crazy. It is crazy.
Music industry is feast or famine. I mean, for sure. Like, it's like, it's almost like being a farmer. you have to like you sow all your seeds, and then finally at the end of all that work, you get a fat check, and that better last you until your next sowing of seeds.
But if there's
Because
a
it's a
storm on
brutal
tour,
cycle.
if there's a storm and your crop gets thrashed,
you're fucked.
forget it. We learned,
Yep.
I've learned some lessons from flying, having like extra bags to pay for. You know,
Next thing you know, like $600 every flight adds up to like, you know, you're like, wait a minute, I went on tour and the only people that made any money were fucking United, you know?
right? And the crew. Hey, can I borrow? Hey, buddy, can I borrow $20?
I saw how much you made in tips last night, merch guy. Yeah.
Yeah, I just I think growing up a poor kid, there's some element of inspiration that I'm still able to tap into that still motivates me, that believes that, and I think this is a common thing with Americans. Like, they think that, you know, for sure, work hard, but if you work hard, eventually, like, you know, the stagecoach is going to pull up, right?
Right.
Like, there's still this thing, like, I feel like I'm just going to keep working, and then like in 24 hours, who fucking knows? Maybe what opportunity is going to come along. Who knows?
Yep. You don't know. You never know. It's the weirdest thing. I got the call from you to do this song that we're going to do that we can't talk about. And it's just like one of the coolest things that I've been involved with in the last couple of years. So it's like I said, just keep saying yes. You never know. And also, but one thing I do want to say about that though is I hate this fact that if you look at other countries like Scandinavia, especially, or Canada, or pretty much any other country, has like art programs and things like, or like Ireland, you know, if you're an artist, you know, an entertainer by profession, you don't pay any taxes, you know, like that and things like that. And so like, it's really fucking rough for American artists to exist, because not only do you, if it's your full-time job, not only do you get stuck with the extra 15% self-employment tax,
right?
But they also, you're usually not making enough money to be privy to any of these crazy billionaire tax cut bullshit things. You know what I mean? Like you can be making like, even when you're like killing yourself on the road, like you're probably going to make less than $100,000 a year. And then you're going to get hit with like a 40% tax rate. So really, like you're giving like 40% of your money to this government that doesn't do a fucking thing for you. You know, whereas like Canada has programs for like, you know, if you're a band, you want to make an album, they'll just give you money. Or if like, you know, Scandinavia, especially all those countries, like being a rock star is like a legitimate career path. So they have like programs for that, and like facilities with like practice rooms, and put you together with other people that are musicians, and they foster creativity and things like that. It's how you end up with amazing acts like Graveyard and so on and so forth. But in America, it's super cutthroat. And you to do it, you have to be a fucking lifer, and you have to not give a shit about anybody else except yourself. Even if you are a very selfless individual, you have to make that decision at some point along the way to just say, fuck everything, I'm burning you all, and I'm really sorry, but I have to do this, and I'm going. And it I'm not saying it makes you a better artist, but it does foster a lot of inspiration for very fierce output. But I don't like that fact.
It also has a temptation factor and encourages people to just fucking lick the boots of conventional pop music.
It does. It does. I've never felt that need, but I've seen it happen, and it'll eat people alive. It's weird. People change, you know. Like it's almost like the opposite end of. I don't want to get too political, but like just being a Republican for the sake of being a Republican, where you're like, no, I'm going to vote for these rich pieces of shit because somewhere deep inside, I feel like I'm going to be a rich piece of shit one day, and I want to be on that side of things. That's whereas like on the other end of like the pop music, it's like, you know, it's like, like I don't really like, you know, want to be this egotistical piece of shit, but I'll do whatever it takes to be as big as it takes, or, you know, and I've seen it happen. I don't know, but I've never personally felt that. I just want to rock. I just want to play guitar and have a fucking good time, you know. And
look, you know, I don't have any money. I got guitars.
Until I was like that until I met Ken Haas, who we have to give a shout out to Reverend Guitars because Ken is the one that linked us up, you and me.
Yes.
And Ken and Penny Haas are two of the sweetest people you'll ever meet. Joe Naylor, also, who was the founder of Reverend Guitars and Railhammer Pickups, who eventually handed them both over to Ken and Penny Haas. They treat everyone they come across with the utmost respect.
I got this thing.
I love them to death. I love you both very much. If you're listening.
And this one just
is that the Pete Anderson, the East Sider?
The new limited edition Silver Sparkle.
You bastard.
And
Pete's one of my favorites. He used to be Dwight Yoakam's producer and lead guitar player for the first huge chunk of his career.
Dude, every time I pick up this guitar, one of the first thing I play is Guitarist Cadillacs, right?
So good. Pete, if you're listening, call us up, man. Let's do a song. Let's do something fucking weird. Like
that guy's got.
What did I say earlier? I've heard his like solo output is like more like blues based, kind of just like jazz, cool funky stuff. Blues, it's really cool. Yeah, I dig it.
He's a great storyteller.
I've never. Oh, pardon me. I'm drinking a beer. I'm sorry. I've never had the pleasure to meet him or hear his take on live for guitar or anything like that. But is he cool?
Dude, he's the coolest.
Ugh,
the coolest. There's another thing over in that box over there. You see? Oh yeah. And I've been careful to leave it in the box because I don't want it to get seen in any pictures or videos that I'm making when I'm like doing my little behind the scenes things.
Are we allowed to talk about this right now, or is this
that is yeah? But it's a signature model of an artist, and I'm going to use it in a video, in a song of that artist. So ooh. with some other folks, so it'll be a good time.
Is it a Reverend guitar? Are you allowed to say?
Oh yeah, no, it's a Reverend guitar. Yeah, for sure.
Oh no, I want to know.
It is a Reverend.
Is it me? It's not. It's not me. It can't be me because mine's way bigger than that.
I'll mouth it to you. It's
No, it's not. Shut up. I could talk about that for hours. I'll just stop talking.
No, I know. We'll talk about it after we turn this thing off.
Oh God.
Yeah.
You son of a bitch.
But it's a rad. I guess they didn't have one in stock, and I hit them up because I just had the idea. I was like, oh fuck, I'm gonna do this song with this fucking insane all-star cast, and I bet it would be really cool to use dude's signature guitar. That would be amazing. And Ken hit me back and he was like, man, we don't have any. They sell out really quick.
They sell. I know. Like, that's the thing is like about Reverend Guitars. Like they're a rad company and they're not like Schecter. They don't make like 10,000 of a guitar. They make like, 100. Right. And when they're gone, they're fucking gone,
Right.
So, yeah.
So these things sell out and he hit me back. He's like, let me ask some of the employees if they have one, maybe we can borrow one. And then he hit me back a day or two later and he said, you know what? We're going to make you one out of parts.
Dang.
We're going to make you one out of parts. It'll be like nothing, like it's, it'll be pretty unique. But I have to send it back. He also sent me a text.
It's fine.
He sent me a text and followed up and he's like, you're going to beg me for this thing. He said, he said, I think his exact words were, I can't wait to get the text where you're begging me to keep this thing.
That's awesome, dude. Reverend, they set all their guitars up in house and everything before they ship them off and everything.
Yeah.
They had I don't know if it was a customer or an employee or who, or maybe an artist. I don't know, but you can follow them on Instagram and go back and check it out. But somebody that owned one of their guitars had the guitar go through a house fire, and it got burned up really badly. The guitar itself got scorched. And they sent it back to Reverend and said, like, hey, if you can do anything with it, cool, let me know, whatever. And so they cleaned it all out. They threw away everything that was burning. They, relic, like just whatever, try to preserve most of what they could in it, and then like had it refinished and redressed it and everything. And they call it the Phoenix, and it's probably the coolest fucking guitar I've ever seen, because I mean, I've seen a lot of relic guitars and everything like that, but I've never seen one that truly went through a house fire like that and that was turned back into an amazing instrument. I would love to play that thing just to see how it resonates, because like a lot of my favorite sounding guitars, like Gibsons and stuff like that, like SGs, had the headstock snapped off and glued back on. And like, just when you do something to a guitar like that, when you route out part of the wood to put a piezo bridge in it, or when you do any kind of thing like that, like you just change the entire resonance of this one instrument, and it's not this factory thing anymore, and it just becomes its own little beast. I love that about guitars.
Would you say that the Phoenix is roasted Karina?
Hey,
yo! Hey yo! Yeah, no, I love their guitars, and I love Ken, and yeah, it's been.
Ken's one of the only people that, I don't know, like he's just, they just believe in me as an artist, and they believe in all their artists. I mean, from Reeves Gabrels up to Pete or whoever. Like I'm not being self-deprecating. I'm really not, but I'm nobody. I'm like this dude in like I mean, I used to say that the Sword was like the biggest little band or the smallest big band. Like we tread this weird line of like, mainstream versus underground and everything like that. And so it's like the fact that they treat me the same as they treat people of a much higher caliber. I'll never forget that, and I'll do anything for them. I always do. Anytime we roll through Detroit or Toledo or whatever, I always make it a point to invite them out and just stop by the Reverend Factory and like do some videos for them, or just anything I can do to help them. They've been so kind to me over the years.
Do you know Brad Hauser?
I may have met him. I don't know the name off the top of my head.
He's got a signature bass. And like I grew up in the 90s when I first moved to Seattle. He played in this band called Critters Buggin'. But previously he played Critters Buggin' is this crazy like Bitches Brew influenced acid jazz fucking
crazy
freak out band with like Matt Chamberlain on drums.
Wild.
That's insane. It's the first time I ever saw a drummer run live loops of himself playing, and then
that's crazy. I love when people do that kind of shit on drums.
It's like 94. Like it was like game changer for me. But he plays also with Edie Brickell. He lives, I don't think he's in Austin anymore, but he was in Austin for a long time. But
that may be why I do the name. That sounded familiar, but yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
He's amazing, but he's got a signature. I think he's a great player.
When I see my name, like when I go to their factory, and it's like I look at the signature shelf, and it's like Bob Balch, Reeves Gabrels, Pete Anderson, Billy Corgan, Kyle Shutt. I'm just like, what? Like, what bizarro world do I live in where like I'm up on this fucking shelf? You know what I mean? I almost feel like I don't want to say anything, or like to draw attention to the fact that they totally like made a signature guitar for me. But it was their idea. I didn't push into it. Joe Naylor and me built that guitar from the ground up, and I actually I was able to convince them to go against Reverend Norm and make the first 4-knob Reverend guitar, because I requested a dedicated master volume for tone and bridge. Usually they do master tone, master volume, and bass contour. And I said, you can do master tone if you want, but I have to have separate volume controls because of a stutter thing that I do occasionally. And they were like, we can put a stutter button in. I was like, dude, this isn't a silver tone, man. Don't put a stutter
this ain't
button
no
on
joystick.
my guitar. No, man, no, dude. Yeah. I love the guitar they made for me. I try to push it as much as I can, and we sold like way more of them than I ever thought we would. Like I'm by no means of the level of your Kirk Hammett or your Steve Vai or whatever, right. But the fact that many, I think it's attributed to the fact that we just built a really great guitar, and I also made it to where it has my signature pickups in it, and I had my signature engraved into the truss rod cover. But if you wanted to swap out the pickups and swap out the truss rod cover, it doesn't have my signature on it anywhere. And that was really important to me, because there's nothing that's more of a turnoff, I think, than like seeing a cool guitar, but then not wanting to play it because it's got some ding dong signature like huge on the headstock or something like that, you know. And just, I don't know. I don't have that big an ego. I don't be like, you're playing my guitar, you know. It's just like, I just wanted to make a solid instrument. It was important for me for it to be very big, because I'm a very big man and it makes me look smaller. So really, it's I lied. I'm all ego.
The body is bigger than the other double cuts, right?
It's not a Sensei, it's a manta ray body shape. So it's like, think more E335 than
yeah.
And it is semi-hollow, but it's a flat top. It's not it doesn't have an F-hole.
Right.
But it's got a very wide center block. It's I don't know. I like playing with resonance and feedback in tasteful ways, and the semi-hollow body was
that's great.
kind of my pony for that.
Maybe I'm going to pick one of these things up, because I've been on the lookout. Forever I've been obsessed with those 335 studios that they were making in the early 90s.
Yeah,
you know what I'm
those are great
about?
guitars. Even the Epiphone models are phenomenal. I think those are great guitars. Epiphone got a bad rap for a while just because Gibson set the price point for their customs so high that it made anything else that costs less seem like not a good guitar. But honestly, like it doesn't really cost a lot to make a great guitar. Sorry, folks.
Well, those 335 studios are just 335s without F holes.
Yeah,
and I just have been intrigued by that. But fuck it, I gotta fucking wait around for one of those anymore. I'm gonna wait.
Just borrow one from Ken, and he'll make you give it back. Right? I'm
gonna be like, Ken.
Actually,
I'll trade you this model for.
Right. I don't know if I'm allowed to talk about it, but I'm going to. Sorry, Ken. So we did 4 colorways of the Kyle Shutt guitar. There was a tobacco burst that was my favorite, but that was the lowest selling. Heartbreaking, but whatever. This is the story of my life. Usually the thing that I like is like the thing that doesn't make anybody any money.
Right.
And there was a black one, an Alpine burst one, which was like probably the highest seller. It was that one was cool. It looked like a silver burst that had gone like where the copper base had gone green.
Right.
So it was like a green sort of burst, metallic style. And then we also did a white one for the band Doom Side of the Moon that I produced. That was basically a heavy metal reimagining of Pink Floyd's greatest hits set to a laser light show. And all the band was dressed in white, and all the instruments had to be white so that the projection onto the stage made the entire stage look like it was moving. It was pretty incredible.
Right.
But so that's what I mean. Like Ken's the kind of person that when I can call him and I say, "Hey, I need a white version of my guitar," he goes, "Yeah, no problem." So it's like he just has the faith in me that entire company does, and I love them for it. But we are kind of at the end of our inventory, and so we're probably going to order a new color situation pretty soon. And I'm not going to say what it is or when it is, because he might pull out, and I don't want to put him on the line because I love you, Ken. But we've been talking about the next color option to come down the pike. So that's going to be the next thing. No commitment on the timeline, and probably early next year or mid next year or something like that. But there's going to be a new one soon.
You know, these loose lips conversations, that's how I ended up with this East Sider limited edition. Ken announced this guitar when he was on the podcast.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'll take
big mistake, Ken.
Yeah.
Big mistake.
Yeah. I was like, how many are you making? He said 20. And I said, I'd like number 2.
You should have said number 4.
I want number 2.
420. I'm writing a book called Written in Stone. You have to give me a break.
Hey,
did you get number 2 though? I'm sorry, I didn't.
No, I got number 2.
Oh yeah.
I'll give you the tie-in on all of it, but number 2, for very grade school reasons, I thought number 2 was perfect. You're number 2. Thank you. So are you.
Somebody's got to be first loser. You know what I mean?
That's it. First place loser.
Yeah.
I want to wrap it up. I'm gonna focus folks over to send me a link for your Kickstarter so
Of
that
course. Yep.
we can funnel some
Put it right
folks
in the
over
show
that
notes.
way.
I'm not going to bore you with the letters and numbers involved in the link, but yeah, it's look down in the show notes and they'll take you a link right to the written in stoned Kickstarter, which I promise it's going to jump off your bookshelf and get you high. It will.
I
So
love
if
the
you're in
commercial.
recovery, it won't hurt my feelings if you don't order it. But yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. It's not going to be your average rock and roll memoir. I can promise you that.
Wonderful. We don't necessarily need another one of those. I read a lot of them.
Have you read the Paul Schaefer one?
No.
Then you need another one. It's phenomenal. Every page is gold. If you have a chance, if you can, listen to the audiobook version, because I didn't do that, but a friend of mine did, and he said Paul narrates it, and it just, you feel like you're sitting next to the fire with him telling you stories. So check out the Paul Schaefer one, because that man's been through it all.
I will do that. I'm in the car a lot. I'm like, when I'm at work, I'm like,
Totally.
Audiobook works for me.
That's my time to listen to music. People always like send me links and stuff like, did you check out my record? Be like, I haven't had to drive lately. Sorry.
Right.
So just wait till I have like, an hour and a half
next
in the
week.
car, and I'll check it out. Yeah.
Well, dude, thank you so much for fucking hanging out with me for so long.
No, of course. Thank you for having me. I love doing stuff like this. Yeah, I live in an Airstream with two children, so I do a lot of truck talking, a lot of truck recording. My truck is my vocal booth whenever I do home recordings, stuff like that. Because like I can roll the windows down on either side. I live in Texas, so like we're kind of coming into the fall, so it's not like punishingly hot in here, so I can roll some windows down and get some really nice isolated sound without the because in the Airstream, if I got the AC going, I mean anywhere, any house you live in, you got the AC going, it's gonna ruin fucking everything. But yeah, it's I do lots of home recording. That's pretty much where I live now, is like the home recording life with plugins and stuff. I don't prefer it, but it's very cost effective, and I can make some pretty goddamn convincing tones out of computer software. But whenever I do get a decent budget together, nothing I love more than going in a damn studio with a damn fine engineer and just ripping some tracks. So I can't thank you enough for having me on the show and making me privy to the song that we can't talk about yet. But I promise you all, it's going to be nothing short of a good time.
It's going to be a very good time. Yeah, man.
Very, very good time.
Well, I can't wait to see this book. What do you think? You may maybe go to press by the end of 2021?
Hopefully before that. If this project gets funded, it will allow me the time to get it done much quicker than I would otherwise. And so if we get this funded by October 4th, I'm giving myself a year. So by next, October, you will have a book in your hands. Just because it takes time to, number one, put something together and get it edited. And like, I'm not, like I said, I'm not just going to sit down in front of a computer and just bang out some stupid stories and just try to make a buck off you people. I'm really trying to put something together really cool. I love art projects. I love big things, No. Yeah. I mean, that'll be the first line, maybe, if you're lucky. But no, it's going to be a really cool book, and I promise to have it to you within a year.
Amazing. I cannot wait. But
it's going to be fun.
Have a great night. Stay cool.
You too, bud. Thanks so much for having me on. I love doing stuff like this. If you ever wanted to have me back, I don't want to stink up the joint or anything like that. But if you ever want to have me back, I'm a phone call away. You know that.
We have family and other friends in Austin. So you might see me and my wife down there. And if you do, I'll
come on down.
Mm-hmm.
I'll take us to a brewery where you aren't legally allowed to buy beer, and
we'll hit the barbecue, the BBQ.
We'll have to sneak them out the back. Oh, you know it, yeah. Oh yeah. I know where the good barbecue is.
I bet you do.
But you take care of yourself, man. Thank you so much for having me again.
Have a good night, bud.
You too, bud.
Bye.
Bye.